Good evening, everybody. My name is Jason Grady. I am the chairman, and I would like to call this meeting to order. This is the Inland Wetlands Commission of Monroe. It is April the 25th, and it is currently 7:04 p.m. The first order of business, as always, is the Pledge of Allegiance. Please stand. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Before we start, I'd like to introduce the members of the commission and staff present here tonight. Starting on my right is Commissioner Clark Gingras. Next is Ross Mastroraco. Next to him is Commissioner Jim Stewart, who's also our treasurer. Commissioner Stewart is also, where's my list? A licensed professional engineer and a licensed land surveyor. I am Jason Grady, chairman. To my left is Lois Spence, who is our secretary. Next is Donna Trzynski, who is our Inland and Wetland Commission and Land Use Coordinator. To her left is Scott Schatzline, who is a licensed professional engineer, land use director, town engineer, and inland wetland agent for the town of Monroe. And as always, Rebecca Wood, the cog that spins our wheels, who is our recording secretary. I am to read our mission statement and how the meeting will proceed tonight. The objective and purpose of the Inland and Wetlands Commission is to provide for the overall protection and preservation of the inland wetlands and watercourses within the town of Monroe. In the normal course of our meetings, we will hear public hearings and other applications. The protocol for public hearings is to have an applicant make a representation or presentation to the commission, during and after which the commission will be asking the applicant questions. The commission will review town, staff, and other independent comments. The meeting will then be open to the public for comment. I will ask that all comments be made to the chair or the commission. After any and all comments pro, in opposition to, or of a general nature are made, the applicant will be given the opportunity to respond. It is not necessary that the applicant respond, but generally in their best interest to do so. There will be no further opportunity for new questions unless new material is entered into as evidence or testimony during their response. Please keep any and all comments pro and con specific to inland wetlands related matters. Other applications that do not involve public hearings will follow a similar format, with the exception that there will be no public comments allowed. The meeting follows our published agenda unless otherwise amended. The agenda is up here on the front table in green. Should anybody like a copy? Is there any changes to the agenda tonight?
Yes. Under item 6, I'd like to move IWC 2016-09, 234-246 Main Street, Sippin, to number 6 from number 12. Also, I'm adding under item 11B, IWV 2018-05, 4 Mellow Drive. And then under item 12, under general discussion, other 261 Moose Hill Road.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Sorry.
Now is the time of our meeting where I will open up to general public participation. This is a period of time reserved in our meeting for public participation on any inland and wetland matters not related to anything on our current agenda tonight. Seeing nothing, we're moving right along. For the commission members, we've discussed, we're going to move our minutes down to, if you've noticed in our agenda, we're going to move our review of last meeting's minutes to the end of the meeting to try to move along for the public here. There are no subdivision reports or recommendations to Planning and Zoning Commission tonight. So we're gonna move right on to regulating activities, regular meetings, which involve no public comment. IWC 2018-04-R, 8 Maple Drive, Rizzio, site development and remediation to address unpermitted parking area and clearing within 150 feet of a river. That's continued from our last meeting.
We did receive an email request corresponding with Chris Russo, and they are requesting an extension until May 23rd.
Which is not our next meeting, correct? That's 2 meetings from now?
Yes.
Okay, I didn't catch that, I thought it was the next meeting.
Oh, you know what? I'm sorry, that's the next one. This one will be through to the next meeting, May 11th. I apologize.
And I have been in contact with their engineer, and they have
Yes.
submitted new information.
So we're moving right along?
Yeah, they
Yes,
Okay. Tell me again the date of our next meeting?
May 11th is
Thank you.
is our next meeting.
but it's,
Okay. Everybody okay with moving into the next meeting? I thought we had one.
Hold on, let's just double check here. Maybe I'm incorrect. I am completely incorrect. It's May 9th.
May 9th.
Scott is correct.
I have to cross out one more thing on this agenda.
Okay, well,
My
I'm sorry.
notes.
I know. You'll have to get a new one.
Yes. Okay, so we're gonna table that until our next meeting of 5/9.
Yes, May 9th.
Thank you so much. IWC 2018-05R, 4 Maple Drive, O'Keefe, removal of previously placed millings and proposed construction of asphalt driveway with grass swale and plunge pool. Continued from our last meeting.
That one we received correspondence from Bill Carboni, and they're requesting to extend the review to May 23rd. That one is the one that's going to May 23rd.
I guess what I should have asked on the last one, this one, just because it's Wednesday and it feels like a Monday to me. We have enough time for all this stuff?
We do. They're
Statutorily.
still within their 65 days because it's a regular review, and they do have 65 days of extension time that they can use. So we are still.
But procedurally, they have to officially ask for the extra 65 days, but we're
Right,
not
but
there
we're
yet.
not in that yet.
Fantastic, thank you. Does anybody have any comment on that? Okay, so we will go ahead and move that to May 23rd. I believe we heard from Mr. Carboni at our last meeting, so I'm sure we're moving along on that as well, right? All right. Subsection B, public hearings. IWC 2018-03, 425 Pepper Street, Growing Designs, Kidney, constructions of driveway, parking, and storage area within a regulated area. How you doing today?
Fine, thank you, and yourself?
I'm okay.
Good.
Do we have to read the notice? Into the
Probably, right? Read the notice?
Yes,
If you just give us a minute, we can handle
Sure.
some
please.
clerical business.
Okay, make sure I got the right one. Okay. I'll just read this one. Notice of public hearing in the Inland Wetland Agency, Monroe, Connecticut. The Monroe Inland Wetlands Commission will hold a public hearing Wednesday, April 25th, 2018, at 7 p.m. in the Town Hall Council Chambers, 7 Fan Hill Road, on the following application. 425 Pepper Street, Growing Designs, Steve Kidney. Proposed construction of driveway, parking, and storage within a regulated area. Applications are available for review in the Inland Wetlands Office at Town Hall. Copy of this legal notice dated April 6, 2018 is on file in the office of the Town Clerk. Lois Spence, Secretary.
Thank you, Secretary Spence.
Can you zoom into the phone portion of that?
Left-hand corner?
you got a mouse over there.
Yeah, but he's not sure how to do it.
Okay.
I'll do it for you if you want.
So,
but if
yeah.
you're all
No, I
set.
see, I got it.
And then use the mouse as a pointer because it's on the,
There you go.
you want me to just grab it for you?
Yeah, okay.
All right, so, just take it this way.
Okay, great, thank you.
Well, we'll put you on the hand, so
There you go.
Also,
If you
Mr.
wouldn't
Chair-
mind, sir, if you could just introduce yourself for the record.
Yes, sir. Good evening. My name is Jim Rotundo. I'm a licensed professional engineer with Godfrey Hoffman Associates. Our offices are located at 26 Broadway in North Haven. I'm here tonight representing the applicant, Growing Designs. Also with me tonight is Mr. Steve Kidney, who is the owner. This is an application which was actually approved back in 2007. A little bit of the work had commenced, was not completed. An extension was granted. Again, work was not completed. This was back in 2008, 2009. Mr. Kidney could not proceed with the work based on the economy basically falling down, taking a tumble there, and he just didn't have the means to progress with the work there. Time ran out on the extension, and here we are tonight with another application before you. This application, essentially, the proposal is the same as the one back in 2007. It was modified slightly just to conform with some changes to the zoning regulations. The parcel is approximately 1 acre in size. It's located in the I-1 zone. The property currently has an existing wood frame house. There's a gravel driveway which extends into the rear. The one piece of work from the previous application that was completed was an equipment storage garage, which is located to the rear. The property itself does not contain any wetlands. However, wetlands were identified and flagged by our project soil scientist back in 2007, Consoil. The west branch of the Pequannock River is located west of the site behind the rear property line. And there were wetlands flagged associated with the river. The area between the property line to the river is essentially a wooded buffer area. The applicant is proposing to convert the existing house into an office building for his landscape use. He's also proposing a new paved driveway into the site and parking area to the rear. That parking area will be used for his office use as well as company vehicles. There's also a proposed storage area to the rear corner of the site that will be used to store mulch, topsoil, crushed stone, whatever he's using for the job he's currently working on. He doesn't sell any product out of this facility. The work vehicles that I speak about that will be parked here are essentially 3 vehicles. He has 2 dump trucks and a rack body truck. The remainder of his equipment will be parked and stored in the equipment storage bed. He does have 3 company pickup trucks, which essentially go home at night with the drivers. A new septic system is also proposed to be installed for facilities within that garage for employee use. The majority of the proposed improvements are located within the 100-foot area to the wetlands, which is approximately in that vicinity, and 150 feet to the river. That comprises an area of about 0.4 acres. There is a 25-foot landscape buffer area proposed between the parking area and the rear property line. The site essentially slopes from a north to south direction. What we're proposing for our stormwater is a collection swale basin area located off the southerly parking area. Currently, we are sheet flowing this into a stone strip to provide some velocity break. It will then flow into the swale. The swale is approximately 193 feet long. It's about 12 feet across the top, 2 feet deep, sloping down to 4 feet along the bottom. We are proposing a concrete lip along the westerly side of this basin to provide basically an overflow weir type of situation with riprap protection on the back side of that. This basin area does control the flows for the 10 and 25-year storm events. 1 inch of rainfall over the paved areas into this basin is stored and totally retained. Based on the comments and request by the commission when this application was accepted, we did look at if it was feasible to put in some type of a structural pre-treatment prior to runoff getting into the basin. One of the constraints that we have on this site is that it is relatively flat across the site and also to its discharge point back to the river. Creating a low point in the parking area reduces that elevation, I'm going to throw some numbers out at you here, to about 387.7. Constructing this catch basin with a top and basically minimal depth puts this top of pipe about 15 inches down at elevation 386.5, which is the same elevation of the bottom of the basin. So what's occurring is that invert of the pipe coming out is going to be below the bottom of the basin, and we won't be able to get water from that low point, that collection point, into the basin. I mean, we are willing to, some of the thoughts I have were possibly another small swale prior to this, provide a little added area for a little more retention of stormwater, slow it down. This will be a vegetated area, so there will be an opportunity where this comes off the parking area. It ranges anywhere from maybe about 8 feet to 15 feet over a vegetated surface prior to discharging into the swale. So there will be an opportunity for some collection of some sediment, hydrocarbons and so forth to be collected in that area. We did receive comments from Mr. Schatzline. We're currently reviewing those and addressing those. So we will be providing additional information to Scott with regard to his comments. Also, an erosion and sedimentation control plan has been developed for the project and is included in the drawing package. One of the other comments, while I'm on that, we did, within this basin area, we did excavate a couple more test pits. We had some extensive testing within this area here for the design of the septic system. We excavated a couple more test holes within the basin area itself. The material was pretty consistent with what we had found in these holes. There's some topsoil and a little bit of fill on the top, a loamy type of material, and then it gets into a sandy gravel with some silt material. We did notice redoxification ranging anywhere between 32 and 34 inches, and with the bottom of the basin set about a foot higher. One of the other things, as far as the implementation of any kind of structure, so we didn't get into that grade elevation, would be to lower the basin bottom. However, by doing that, we'd be putting it into the areas where we see there may be seasonal groundwater. Identified in either of these holes, we went down 60 to 65 inches, which is pretty much consistent with the other holes. I believe we saw groundwater 65 to 72 inches in that range. With that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
I'm having trouble discerning the edges of the building. Is it only, you're expanding the building to build a bigger building, are you not?
No, we're not.
Am I misunderstanding something?
The only expansion, improvements to the existing building are there's just going to be a vestibule added to the front of the building.
So it's a house?
It's a house, essentially, yes. So a vestibule to the front, so there's a new entryway. There's a walkway proposed up the edge of the driveway, and we are creating a ramp area there for accessibility.
Okay.
So it's just to refresh your memory,
Yeah.
there's a previous approval for this property, which was basically very similar to this plan, and they built a large garage structure in the backyard.
Right.
So they did some of the work, but never finished it in
Okay.
time, and that's how
All right.
it lasts.
I was just thinking that you were building a bigger, much bigger building, and I'm looking for the square. Isn't it square? No wonder I couldn't find it. Okay. So what is between the house and the parking spaces?
Between the house and the parking spaces right now, it's not a paved area, it'll be reseeded, it's a lawn area.
So this lawn, okay.
I'm gonna blow this up.
And also, that is, as you see on the plan there, that's the location of the existing septic system for the house, so that area will remain as lawn.
Okay, but you're proposing new septic area?
Correct. That will be within the, that will be within the new parking area. It's a small system, 32 linear feet, and that will only be for facilities within the new garage.
That makes more sense.
Show them the garage on that plan, because it's
Yeah,
lightly shaded.
it's so light that it's
Yes,
very
I-
hard
I
to
see that,
discern.
yes. This is the garage area here.
It's already there.
It's
Right,
already there.
okay.
It's a 3-bay garage, overhead doors entering into the parking area with man doors on either side. There is existing lighting. There are now just post lights at each door.
And is there bathroom facilities in that garage now?
Have you installed that?
It's not operational because the septic's
Can you
not in
step
there.
up, just, I'm sorry, sir, just, if you're making comments, I just need your name for the record.
Introduce yourself.
Hi, Steve Kidney, owner of the property. There's just a restroom in there, a bathroom, a toilet and a sink.
And that's gonna remain that way?
And that's all it's gonna be, yeah.
And
It's
it-
just for the guys to use.
And it's there now, but you need a new
Not
septic?
functioning, correct.
Not functioning
Ah,
because there's
I
no
see.
septic
Yes.
set up.
I get it,
The
okay.
water line is in, all the
So
piping
that
is
was the
done.
part of the original approval that was
That was
already
part of
done?
the original plan that was approved.
I get it. Thank you.
Is there any washing of vehicles proposed in this garage?
No, we don't work on any of our equipment. All our trucks go out for service, and same thing with our lawnmowers and stuff.
Okay.
So,
How about salt?
Salt?
Storage.
we don't store salt.
So you don't plow in the winter?
We do plow, and I do have a sander, but we pick it up. It's available all the time. You can call those guys and they load your sander. I would never store it on the ground.
You don't brine anything? You don't use the brine?
No,
You don't make the brine and stuff like that?
no, we don't do it.
So you're, in the event of a storm while you're plowing, you go and just fill up for the
We
day?
just go fill it up and
Understand?
sink salt.
Okay. Any other chloride products?
No, we do some fertilization, but we mostly do organics.
Okay, would any of that material be stored in the storage area?
There would probably be some fertilizer stored in the barn from time to time,
Bagged or
bags, no bulk.
no bulk?
In the barn, are you using that interchangeably with the garage?
With the garage,
Okay,
sorry,
that's all right, no problem.
looks more like a
Okay.
bulk.
Just
How about millings? Do you deal at all with millings?
No, you mean ground up asphalt, that type of thing? No, never.
Okay. A lot of these questions disappear now that I understand what they're.
Yeah.
As I was looking at the plan, would there be a way to depress, if we're looking for more water quality treatment, would there be a way to depress some of the area that is within the upland review between your, between the edge of your pavement and your property line for another storage, another swale?
You're talking along the westerly property line?
Yes, I am.
We
Could
could-
another swale be put in there and enough pitch be put into the parking lot to convey some of your,
We could certainly
The
take a
water
look at
there.
that. We have to consider the elevations on our leaching field here, as far as sloping in this direction. But we could certainly see, one of the things that Scott and I actually talked about was possibly doing some work, expanding this up in that area. We could certainly do a shallower to help get some of that water down to run through that swale.
that's what I mean.
Right.
Okay. Then we could just use the same plantings perhaps and condense them
Correct.
to make a denser buffer, but, but still there.
Just as clarification,
Yeah.
what's happening with this site is, it's so small that typically, we look for, as I think you know, up to 100-year attenuation. But this is just too small, and because there's no profile there, there's no ability to have subsurface storage. So there, the site is really dictating how big you can go with the basin area. So I've asked him to enlarge it as much as possible, as practical.
Okay.
But that's why it's not up to the 100-year. But the main goal is certainly to get the water quality volume for quality purposes, and he's done that. So I'm hoping to work with him to get an expansion of the basin itself to get as much storage as possible. But it's not going to be what the ideal situation is.
Right. When you mentioned vegetation between the proposed landscape island and the proposed swale, what kind of vegetation were you, in your presentation, you mentioned there would be?
Right, this area here would just be a grass lawn type of area, depending on, Steve, I think we had talked about maybe even kind of a wildflower mix or some kind of, not.
Okay, so it wouldn't be one that would be maintained and mowed and fertilized and,
It's almost a mood issue because that's one here, hopefully it's going to expand a little
oh,
more.
I see, okay, so that
You're
the whole
not,
thing
you're
might
not
be.
really going to have
That's
that.
Right, yes.
Okay. I think that pretty well answers all my questions.
What were the gutters doing again?
Pardon me?
Where were the gutters going?
The gutters? There
Yeah,
are no
what-
gutters.
Oh, off the,
On the
Off the
house?
in the garage, or the house? The house, we're showing a discharge pipe into the swale, so once the modifications are made to the house, we'll make that connection into the swale.
Could you put some underground galleys to collect that water?
We could take, this is sized to collect that runoff also.
Mm-hmm.
So from a storage standpoint, it's there. Can I ask what you're looking for as far as,
Well, if Scott is looking for extra
additional
storage
storage,
for
okay.
the 100-year
Yeah.
storm, that's.
yes. Well, I think one of the things that we're gonna look at with Scott is expanding, getting some more volume in here. But if we can't achieve that, we can certainly take a look at that alternative.
What
Yeah,
is,
if you can get recharge on the clean water that's coming off the roof before it gets.
now what is this, area behind the material storage? The circle, small circles in between the pond, that,
Oh,
right there, what is that?
That's just a stone strip
Okay, so
to
it's
kind of
just-
break some velocity coming off of the paved area.
Is it called out anywhere? that I can
Yes,
see?
it-
Yeah. I thought I saw it somewhere. Unless it's in-
there it is. 2-foot wide crushed stone filter pad, 6-inch
Okay,
depth.
so how does the parking lot run, it just runs off that, right through that?
That's-
So it's
well-
gonna be graded?
Correct.
Sorta.
Sheet flow off the parking lot through this stone trench and then overland into the swale.
Okay. What size stone?
I'm just looking at like a 2-inch crushed angular stone.
Oh, I know what I was gonna ask.
Maintaining those swales, are they gonna be grass or?
They're going to be grass with gravel in the bottom. One of Scott's comments that we'll be addressing is putting together an operation and maintenance plan for the property, so we will address all that.
Your doorway to the wetland side of your garage, you're gonna put some sort of a sidewalk there, or concrete pad or something that,
Do you have anything to move now, Steve?
I don't. If,
I'm not sure. I don't think,
it's
Mr.
really gonna, right now, it's gonna go out to the planting area, so I don't really know if there probably wouldn't be any purpose to actually use that door very often.
unless it's
I'm just trying to protect you, because these guys, they'll go out there, they put a pad there, and then you'll be standing in front of us.
So it's an emergency exit.
that's essentially it. It's not a primary exit to the building. It's egress out the westerly side of the garage area. This doorway here is located within a paved area.
That's where people go in and out if they're not going through the door.
If they're not going through the garage door.
Just saying, I warned you.
Would it be possible to move your proposed primary septic a little bit further to the northeast? I've got two red lines here, so I'm,
Right, this is the 100-year, or not the 100-year, the 100-foot.
That's the 100 foot from the wetlands? Okay.
Correct.
would it be possible to move that, your septic system out of that section and put it a little bit further away from the river?
We could take a look at it. We may have to excavate more test holes here. Initially, when we were back in 2007, we actually had the primary located on the westerly side, with the, coming out of the septic tank straight into those fields. And at that time, we swapped it onto the uphill side.
Well, if you could look at that, that would be great. We're trying to do as much as we can to protect the Pequannock.
The plant material along that left side there, that was all okayed back in '07?
Yes, it's-
Yeah.
the material hasn't changed at all.
Is it there now?
You have
No.
no.
So there are no significant changes to the plan since it was last approved?
What was, the changes were, we had the dumpster area back in this corner. We had the material storage up in this area here. But I want to say it went into the setback, or there was something zoning-wise that caused us to switch those. There was the parking, okay, we had to reconfigure some of the parking based on the setbacks and so forth, the required setbacks. And speaking with Mr. Agresta, that's essentially the only change. It was a reconfiguration of some of the parking and swapping out those two areas, the dumpster and the material storage area. But other than that, it's the same. Or I should say, one other item that we did add that wasn't in the previous was we're putting in a small landscaped island here just to help, given that we have parking spaces here, to help direct traffic into the parking.
Mm-hmm. Could that be used for attenuation?
It's a very small area, there would be
That's
really no, it's not worth a shot.
The little 6 inches you get, right? Okay, nope, that's all I've got for questions.
Do we have anything else from the commission? Anything else
And the
from-
water's coming off the neighbor to the north,
That's correct,
and then you got that lawn area?
yes.
Could you make up by collecting water coming onto the property?
You know, that was just going through my mind, that, because that was all considered in our calculations, seeing that would be getting into that basin. If we could even do a little swale here to divert that around and get it into this buffer area, and we could take a look at the calculations, and essentially that would free up more volume within our swale area. And that would just be diverted into lawn areas or vegetated areas.
So the area that is going to be, is proposed to be paved, is the area in front of the existing garage and up to the lawn area just before the house on the right?
That's correct. The existing driveway comes in from Pepper Street,
Right,
so we're widening it to 24 feet.
okay.
It's staying over the location of the existing driveway. And then it is correct. Behind the existing house, the edge of pavement, up to the garage, and that edge of pavement there.
So the material storage area will be paved underneath?
That's correct, it will be.
Okay,
These are gonna be concrete blocks that we're encasing that with, or delineating that.
How big?
What do you get, 2x3, 2x4?
Yeah, I think they're 2x4.
And one course, or how many courses?
No, probably like 3.
I think your
Yeah, we said 2.
details said 2.
Yeah, our plan said 2, so.
Okay.
Is that enough to keep any material from going over the wall into the filter strip where it could be carried into and fill up your swale?
I mean, you're 4 feet high. I mean, we could propose, we could revise to 3.
It seems to me a good bucket
Yeah.
load, just right over.
Yeah. I mean, and that would be something that would be handled at planning and zoning. It doesn't really affect anything materially on the, it enhances it, to your point, that if we went 3 high rather than 2.
Mhm.
So pitch in the parking lot, a small amount of water going right in there, right?
Into this swale here?
Storage area?
Well, we could, with that, I mean, these are gonna be loose blocks, so water could get through there. But we could look at putting some grades here to help divert this around. And if we're also gonna be looking at possibly shedding some of this off into a swale in this area, that'll help also.
And you said in there is usually mulch or stone or landscaping stuff that, bedding stuff, right?
Yeah.
Is it ever dyed? Is it the dyed kind of mulches?
No, I don't use that.
Okay.
Okay. Anything else from the commission? Anything else from the applicant?
No, that's it, thank you.
Okay, so
Thank you.
this is public hearing, right? You want to do exhibits now or after public comment?
Usually it's before public comment.
Okay. So I'm going to ask that we read the exhibits into the record as it stands now. I'm assuming we're leaving this open, right? Because we have to come back with some revisions.
That's my assumption too.
Yes, we have additional information we'll be
All right,
providing.
so
to
we'll
Scott.
leave the hearing open. We're going to read the exhibits that we have so far in tonight, and then again, at our next meeting with any of the revisions.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Exhibit 1 was the previous approval for the property, and that was on March 14th. The document was dated April 12th, 2007. Exhibit 2 is a photo of the posted sign at the property. Exhibit number 3 was a test hole report from Godfrey and Hoffman dated 4/17. Exhibit number 4 is the aquarium and health department notification and a butter notification with the corresponding certificates of mailing receipts. And exhibit number 5 is the town engineer comments with the bond estimate. The document was dated 4/20 with revision date of today, 4/25. And that's it.
Thank you. Okay, at this point in time, I will open this hearing up for public comment. Is there anybody in the audience that would like to make a comment in favor of this application or in support of this application? Seeing none, is there anybody in the audience tonight that would like to make comments in opposition to this application? Is there anybody here tonight that would like to make comments of a general nature in regards to this application as it is presented now? Seeing none, we will continue to next meeting, right?
Thank you very much.
Thank you, folks. All right. Moving right along to our next public hearing, IWC two.
Nope, hold on, I'll get it for you.
Did you just try to remove that without the safe to remove hardware sign? I knew you were a rebel when you walked in, sir.
I didn't think people care about that anymore.
I still do.
Do you?
Yeah, I still do it.
I just pull them out.
Never had them corrupt the other way, but I just don't want to take any chances sometimes.
That's just an evil joke for the software guys.
Yes,
Good
it is.
for us. Let's see how many guys.
Means
can
nothing.
do.
All right, IWC 2014-07-A2, 50 Cambridge Drive, Axle Plastics, amendment to previous approval review of fenced-in outside storage area.
Do you need the notice?
Please.
Okay. Notice of public hearing in the Wetland Agency, Monroe, Connecticut. The Monroe Inland Wetlands Commission will hold a public hearing on Wednesday, April 25th, 2018, at 7 p.m. in the Town Hall Council Chambers, 7 Fan Hill Road, on the following application. IWC 2014-07-A2, 50 Cambridge Drive, Axle Plastics, Jacob Axle, amendment to previous approval, review of storage area and fence. Applications are available for review in the Inland Wetlands Office at Town Hall. A copy of this legal notice dated April 6, 2018 is on file in the office of the Town Clerk by Lois Smith, Secretary. Okay.
Bill Carboni, Spath Bjorklund Associates, representing Axle Plastics. We've been here several times for minor amendments. Just to recap where we are, this, of course, is Cambridge Drive here, the entrance drive. The last meeting, we were here for the external storage. At this point, the overflow tank, emergency overflow tanks here. We are now dealing with this portion of the parking lot. The idea of the parking lot is to create an area for them to store totes. Totes are what they export their materials in. What will be stored here are the empty ones, new, incoming, before whatever chemical processes they do, they're brought into the building, filled, and then exported. So the only thing that we have here is plastic containers, new, unused, and clean. Since we are using up some of the parking spaces that are there, we have to, in order to meet the zoning requirements, expand the parking area to include new parking spaces here. Axle Plastic really doesn't need these spaces. Their employees have sufficient parking in the front of the building, but to meet zoning, we're doing this. The existing dumpster is in this area, and that will be pushed back to here to maintain the same parking count as what is there now. There's 5 on this side, 2 there. These are deferred parking spaces here and here. When we originally got this approved by the Planning and Zoning Commission, we knew we weren't going to need that much parking, so we asked them to, in conformance with the zoning regulations, defer some of the parking. If we ever need it, we can come back and do that. But again, we're just having the deferred parking there. That's what it looks like. It is totally on pavement. These are all new, unused totes that are there. And again, this is taken from approximately the location of the in front of the dumpster, looking out towards the wetlands. Most of this work is all within the, as I say, it's all on asphalt. Sheet flows off to the stone filter that we have at the edge of the pavement, then into the swale that leads ultimately into the detention basin, which is over in this area. It's a rather simplistic thing, but it does require, it is within the regulated area. So that's what we are proposing. If you have any questions.
I have a quick question, Mr. Carboni, if you don't mind, and this might be better answered by Mr. Axel.
Who is here, obviously, with us?
Are you here with an application for a proposal for work that's done?
Somewhat. The fence has been put in place. However, the moving of the dumpster and the additional paving for the parking spaces has not been done. The only thing that's been done is they've set these fence posts, or the fencing.
So this is what's existing right now?
Correct.
what is the proposed material that you're going to use in the deferred parking spaces? Are they going to remain lawn, or are they
Yeah,
going to
it will
be?
remain lawn, yes. That is there as a marker that we could do it to meet the zoning if necessary.
What is how do you get those things in there? Are there gate?
Yeah, there's a little roll gate, we bring the forklift out.
You
There's
can
just,
see portion of it.
Just,
So
Mr. Axel, for the
Sure.
record, please, if you wouldn't mind.
Hi, Jake Axel.
so
Nice
you
to see
go in the
everybody.
center and a forklift, you drop them.
Yeah, and they're all new, we wouldn't, it's not okay for us to, and we wouldn't store any chemicals outside, so it's just, this is new. They take up a lot of volume and we can't really stack them easily inside other than too high, take up a lot of floor space, so it's we thought a decent place to store them.
Why do you have to fence them in?
People would steal them. I had an employee steal about 200 drums before I caught him. I didn't say I was good at my job, I just...
Used oil.
In Monroe?
No, in Queens. So far, everybody's been very honorable in Monroe. Honest, hardworking. I'm growing a beard to fit in better. I had one personal question actually at the end, but
Now, you never store a full unit there. Where are the full ones stored?
inside the building. So code requires whether it's a hazardous chemical or it's a relatively not hazardous chemical, it didn't occur to us that this would be something that would need to be permitted because it's just new stuff, but shame on me, I should have, so we're coming here and trying to rectify that.
Okay.
So for example, like the locker that we're storing stuff, it's diked, it's designed for this is just, we wouldn't store anything. And you would have every right to be very upset at me if I was, but we're not going to.
All right, so we've had 2 applications in a row for things that were already done that we didn't know about until after the fact. Is there anything on the property now that is not permitted and that we haven't seen? Is there anything at all that's going to show up in the future?
No.
No other plans?
No, I mean,
That you're not gonna talk to Scott about before you do?
First. That's correct.
no, the overflow tanks we put in because we had an incident, we had to respond to it quickly, we did, then we came for permitting. And on this one, it didn't occur to us that we needed a permit until they came to us and said, of course you need a permit for that.
Was that there the last time you were here?
Yes.
Yeah,
Right, so I think that you're getting the gist of what our issue is
Mhm.
here, not the fact that you want to do this or that it's there, it's the fact that for the second time in a row, we're finding out about something that's already done.
absolutely.
So I think it's my duty as the chairman of the commission, speaking for this commission, to let you know that continuance of this practice could be a real issue.
And we absolutely understood that. And as an example, the storage locker, I've paid for it, but we haven't installed it because we don't have the permits yet to do it. We haven't got permission from the town.
That being said, and that being on the record,
Mhm.
when we originally did this, I think the only people here was Lois and I.
Yeah.
Isn't this right smack in the middle of phase 2 of your project?
No.
No.
Phase 2 came off about, there was a 50-foot space between here and there, and it came out to about like that. The only thing that this would interfere with is the deferred parking would be in the phase 2.
Yeah.
If the building is built, we most likely would move
Move the dumpster in deferred parking.
into, yeah, or.
Will we get the plans for that before the
Oh,
phase
yeah.
2 building is built?
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm sorry, we looked at that we were just storing some totes and we wanted it fenced in so it didn't get stolen
Where were you keeping them before?
inside the building. And we're getting pretty tight on space. And my customers are starting to order more frequently of that size and those containers, and like I said, they take up just a lot of volume.
Are they in upland review area or?
Yes. There is wetlands right here. The upland review area is about in here. Technically, this paving and the dumpster, future dumpster are not within it, but this is. It's all one project.
Now I'm gonna ask a really horrible question, but I'm gonna do it anyway. Is there anywhere else on site not in the upland review area where this could be moved to?
So the problem that we would have, is, so, we have our nitrogen tank here.
Mr. Carboni, can you follow him with the,
With the hand.
with the
Yeah,
hand
use
so that
the-
the camera picks up what he's pointing at?
Got it?
Thank you.
We've got our nitrogen tank here. So we've got the truckers that are coming in over there,
These are the loading
Got it.
docks.
the nitrogen guy that comes over here. This is a good place to keep it so the Praxair truck doesn't hit it or back into it or anything else. But it's a perfectly valid question. We looked at it, it's out of the way, we're not gonna knock into it easily.
We want to keep it in a paved, you want to keep it in a paved area too.
Yeah.
So with access, these are the loading docks, one here, then two depressed ones here, the nitrogen tanks and the truck movements through here. Putting it in the front of the building would not be aesthetically pleasing and not convenient to any of our access points here. So that seemed to be a logical spot.
Well, logical for your business practice, but not necessarily the most logical for a wetlands purpose, right?
Well, it is in that we're keeping it on a paved area, and we are not increasing the pavement by that, so to
Okay.
that extent we are.
Okay.
Could it be put where your deferred parking is up against the building?
It's grass.
Yeah, it's grass.
So you'd have to
You'd have to
More
pave
more
it.
paved.
Yeah.
So that changes all the
And we
calculations.
do, I mean, they're delivered by truck, and as you saw, there was a sliding gate here. To get over to that spot would be more difficult from an access point of view.
Yeah, for safety's sake, we'd have to pave it, because you have a guy that's on a forklift.
Oh,
even though it's
absolutely,
empty.
I,
So, it seemed like kind of a logical place to put it, but it's a very valid question.
The containers that you have there now, is that like the maximum?
I mean, our goal would be to be putting, pallets of the totes, pallets of those pails, just closed, empty, new containers.
You need room for forklift to move around. in
Yeah,
there,
so
you-
it's not, and the forklift does not exactly have a short turning radius, so it's,
This just happens to be a snapshot at that time. The amount that are in there increases and decreases with time,
What's the
depending.
turnover like in that, of those totes?
geez, I wouldn't want to keep them for more than 2-3 weeks, I would guess. And we get a delivery of totes every week. Totes, pails.
And your
brooms.
delivery is, those big totes, your delivery is, I'm assuming you get them by half a truck, a full truck?
We get a full truck, yeah.
Full truck, so it's, is that 10 of those?
Yeah, a full truck is probably about 10 of those and drums and everything else, and we're storing the drums inside because we go through frequently enough.
now, you fill these up with who knows what, and you send them off to your
To my customer.
customer.
Yes, sir.
They empty them out and do who knows what with it.
No, who knows what, there's a great process.
Okay,
So,
well,
Shuts, who.
it's somewhere else, so I don't really care what they do with it. Okay,
Yes, sir.
now, what do they do with that used container?
Sorry, that was what I was trying to address. So.
Oh, sorry.
No, it's cool. So Shuts, who are the guys that make the totes, there's two companies that do it. They all have a recycling program.
Okay, so
all
they
the
go-
totes are recycled, and then they get reused.
So
they don't come
they
back
come
to
pick
you
them
until
up,
they're-
clean
They
them?
don't come back to us.
So there's
and
no
that would be
chance
a
that they're
legit-
gonna send in a half-empty one?
No, I have customers ask me, I was like, I had a full trailer, because I'm not gonna know. So, no, they go back to the local
And
manufacturer.
they wash them out or do whatever?
They do whatever they do with them. But though we don't buy recycled totes. Not that, I'm pro recycling, it's just not good for business.
I don't personally have any problem with them because they're inert and because they're already occupying space that's been developed, so it's, I don't think it's gonna make any major changes to anything that.
Yeah, I don't think any of the commission thinks that that's
Yeah.
the issue. I think
Right.
it's
Yeah,
the
it's better than,
process that we're
better
going
than
through
the
here.
cars being parked there.
Yeah,
And you're absolutely right. We should have gone to it ahead of time. It didn't occur to us until Spath Purican pointed out that if you're gonna put that in there, you need to get approval. So they're right.
Do we have anything else from the commission?
I got a question. Can I put a weeping willow in the detention basin? We get swans and ducks, and it'd just be so pretty. And I really like gardening.
I don't know, I think,
Kind of short-lived.
Sure, well, like a, no, it should get gigantic, it's got a
They
ton of
get
sun.
gigantic and very quickly, and they
Yeah,
die
they're
very
beautiful.
fast.
Oh, really? Oh, I just thought they were really
Oh,
pretty,
yeah.
They're messy.
but they're really pretty.
They are,
Maintenance, right?
but, you know, because of the messiness, as Jim mentioned, they might end up giving you more of a maintenance issue because
Okay.
of how they will fill up your detention basin with leaves
Ah, okay.
and broken branches and that kind of thing. I had
Gotcha.
willows on my property, so I know,
Okay.
you know, I know what you're dealing, I understand what you're saying. I
Yeah,
think putting any kind of woody material in the detention basin would counteract what
okay,
you're trying to do with it. But,
okay, so,
if, I mean,
that's okay, the dogs, well, we'll have
off
them
the
side
edges,
screen or
you know,
something.
off, you know, I don't know.
Okay, thank you.
So now, if you do phase two,
Mhm.
are you gonna run into problems with your deferred parking?
Part of phase truck, the
That
area
other-
up
Oh, that
here,
other
that other
section,
whole-
and
that's
we have
right,
that big
right,
parking
okay.
lot up there.
Because you're gonna need to add, when you do phase two, it's a bigger building, more parking spaces anyway,
Yeah,
right?
and
Right,
I should only get so lucky that we'll have that much business that,
but that parking lot was already approved and
Right,
would take
okay,
care of any
I
of it.
forgot about that
Yeah,
addition,
right.
okay, thank you, then that answers that question. Thank you very much.
so we're a little far away from
Right.
You okay?
that. So much-
Yep, I'm okay.
Everybody else
Yeah.
okay? Okay. All right, nothing else further from the commission, anything further from the applicant?
No, thank you.
Okay.
I just wanted to ask, just before you, well, I know you got public comment now, but before you were to close the hearing, did you have the postal receipts for Aquarian Water? I got the Commissioner of Public Health in there, I didn't see anything from the postal receipt for Aquarian, for the public watershed.
Oh, the abutters. And the abutter notices, yeah.
We also did not get the comments from the health department.
That was
I'm
part
not
of the-
anticipating a problem with that because it's in a parking lot, although you are expanding the parking and,
I'm
but
looking
I
at-
don't, I'm not expecting, and that could, you do have that.
I have a copy of a green card from Aquarian. And it's over the
'Cause I
letter
believe
he sent.
It's with the application?
It's within the application, the
Okay, that's
last
why I missed it, because
3 or 4 pages are the
I was
copies.
looking in the exhibits, but let's just confirm that. Yeah, it's not in the it's not in the original.
It's on the last page. Right here is Aquarian Water.
Yeah, we don't have that.
Okay, so it's good I asked.
But he
Yeah,
had-
It's not in
It's
the
on
They
original.
have it.
You got it now.
Okay.
Okay, so that's good. So
The
that- I'm
the
sorry.
health department is part of the ART review. I assume that it went there. It's not usually, we usually don't submit that.
Yeah,
That's
but,
for P and Z.
yeah, it does go there, but it's typically, it's up to the applicant to make sure that you have that input. As I said, I'm not expecting a problem with that, and to be honest with you, if we have to move forward, it could be contingent on a no problem report from them, which is anticipated, because it's not anywhere near where the septic system would be.
Nor are we increasing the floor area of the
Correct.
building.
Correct, so it's just a technicality, so that's not really a problem. We've addressed the postal, and before we kind of close things out tonight, we have to decide, or you have to decide on how you want the bond handled. Because I'm saying that you could go either way, you can either utilize some of the bond that's already posted and just reduce what you have and utilize some of that bond by changing or adding to what it covers, or you can request the bond back, get the original bond all the way back, but post a new bond for the expanded part. The reason I'm bringing it up is because a minimum bond amount would typically be at least $2,500, and probably the bond to cover this would be a little less than that. So, either way, we could do it either way, so. Yeah, in other words, what would happen is the original bond would get reduced
But
down
the-
to.
Right, I think it would be advisable if we post a new one strictly for this and
And then
keep
get
all
the-
the other
okay.
bond and not confuse them.
Okay, so in that case, the new bond recommendation is for $2,500. And that's all I had.
I still don't have the abutters, return receipts, the notification of notifying the abutters for the hearing. Do you have those?
That's what the back
No,
of,
I have Aquarian.
no, that whole list at the end of the application are copies of all the green cards.
I think that's probably where the issue lies, because
I
our,
do
our
not have
packet
that.
that we have ends in the Aquarian letter. So I think maybe something went awry in photocopying or packaging.
Just had
So
it in my
if you could get me those.
I will get you those.
Okay,
I mean, there is the green card for Aquarian,
for Aquarian, but I don't have that you notified the abutters.
right.
It really, that should be done
Before- I realize.
before the hearing is closed.
Yeah.
You have it with you?
I'm looking, I just had it in my hand. But rather than taking up the commission's time, I will look for it. Oh, you're,
Or you do have it? Okay.
Johnny on the spot.
All right.
Thank you.
Excellent.
Scott, was there anything on your list that was not addressed?
No, that's what I was just going through now,
Okay.
so,
Sorry about that. Thank you.
Okay. I know you're in the middle of it, Donna, but I'm
No.
gonna ask you to read the
Yep, that's
um,
fine.
exhibits when you get a moment.
Sure. So 50 Cambridge Drive, exhibit number 1, the previous amendment approval is part of the file. Exhibit number 2, our town engineer comments by Scott Schatzline, the document dated March 26th. Exhibit number 3 is a 2-sheet plan set titled Proposed Site Improvements by Spath Bjorklund. Document dated was October 18, 2017 to April 17, 2018 was the revision date. Exhibit 4, our response to engineering comments and mailing receipts for notification of Aquarian by Nick Clark, and the document was dated April 17th. Exhibit number 5 is updated town engineer comments. The document was dated March 26th. Updated revision date, April 23rd, and exhibit number 6 are the receipt of mailings to the abutters.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Okay, so I will now open this hearing to public comment. Is there anybody here tonight that would like to speak in support of this application? Is there anybody here that would like to speak in opposition to this application? Is there anybody here who would like to make a comment of a general nature according to this, of this application, whatever? Seeing none. Commission's good? Staff is good? Applicant, you're okay?
Thank you.
yes, we, again, this is a rather simple thing. It's a container for clean materials in impervious, in a paved area, and we're asking for your approval of the plan, of the
Okay.
modification.
So before I close the hearing, I will make a quick comment without beating a dead horse or being accused of grandstanding. Please, in the future, make sure that this stuff gets brought to the land use group before it's done, please, sir. I'd appreciate it, because I'd hate to have to deny an application simply because the procedure wasn't followed. But I appreciate it, so I'll close the hearing. Thanks.
Yeah, leave it out.
All right, moving right along. You guys good? You need time to reset over there. Notice of violation discussion. IWV 2018-01, 17 Enterprise Drive, excuse me, J&S Industries LLC, Dominic Thomas to represent.
It's not on there because,
Oh, you took it out?
yeah.
Good evening, members of the commission.
Good evening.
Attorney Dominic Thomas, Cohen & Thomas, 315 Main Street, Derby, Connecticut, representing the property owner, J&S Industries. We received the notice of violation. I will tell you, we were in the middle of a zone change to approve, to address approving the use on the premises that my client's business does, which is as an arborist or a tree service, and we received violations, which frankly I was a little surprised at because we had been into the land use office numerous times and nobody had ever raised the issue. But I understand that this was generated by my client's request for a bond reduction. So I began, unfortunately I had conflicts with the last couple of meetings, and through meeting with David Bjorklund, he was able to provide me with historical documentation with respect to this application, which the wetlands and zoning were originally done by Kimball with respect to, when he was setting up the subdivision back in 2007, I believe. So with that, I looked at it, and one of the interesting points, and there are things that granted need to be addressed, but in the original site plan, what I discovered, I'm sorry, the original wetlands application approved, get the original one up for me, myself, the original application approved 1.8 acres of regulated activity. So what I did is I asked Mr. Bjorklund, Engineer Bjorklund, to look at the original site plan that we had and determine where the 1.8 acres was. And it covered both what is known as Phase 1 and Phase 2. And it involved a temporary sediment basin. I will grant you the word temporary was used. And obviously what happened with a lot of the approvals, because I've been involved in some other ones that occurred back in 2007, is they were all, as they went forward, were impacted by the recession. However, when the comment in the thing is unapproved construction of Phase 2, I don't believe there's any unapproved construction of Phase 2. I believe it was the work that was done way back when, in accordance with the permit. That permit was good for 5 years, till 2012. But once you do the work is, and that's unapproved construction. So, again, I want to go through this first before explaining to you what our intent is to proceed. Unapproved disturbance within the 100-foot upland review area beyond limit of the approved disturbance area in the proposed Phase 2. Again, I went out there. We actually had a site walk with David Bjorklund and my client, and we're not sure exactly what the where this area is, because there was a substantial amount of disturbed area in the upland review area approved in the 2007 application. The unapproved storage of dumpsters fill in pavement within the upland review area. The pavement in the upland review area was part of the approval and was done in accordance with the application and in accordance with planning and zoning. I believe the area where you see the storage containers is an area of millings back there. There may be some pavement back there also. And again, we're prepared to address it, because the next step after the zone change is for us to come back into both commissions with a site plan special exception application for the Phase 2 applications, which would have to address all of the issues. But the first step was to correct the situation in the zoning regulations concerning the arborist. Unapproved disturbance within the conservation easement area. We walked back there, we took a look at the conservation easement area. There was, I will say, one pile of material, when I say material, dirt and some leaves and stuff, that looks like the pile has squatted into what is the area. The only reason I noticed that is it relates to the area of the conservation easement not delineated with monuments. We were able to locate, I think, 2 monuments, both of which had, and the monuments are metal poles and stuff, both of which had collapsed over the last, 10 years since they were put up. Conservation easements were not filed in the town of Monroe land records. I can't comment on that. I don't know. I mean, since I wasn't involved 10 years ago, normally in the procedure that when there's a conservation easement requested and approved and not challenged by the applicant, by either planning and zoning or wetlands, normally that's one of the first steps that's done in the approval process. And it's, in most circumstances, the town council provides applicant's counsel with a form, if the towns have forms, and it's recorded. To my recollection, there's nothing recorded, so it definitely needs to be recorded. Unapproved clearing within the 100-foot upland review area. Any clearing, according to my client discussing with him, was done back during that 5-year period when they were doing the work and building the Phase 1 building. And then creating a depression with standing water within the 100-foot upland review area. If you look at the plan from back in 2007, there was that deeper purple area there that they're showing you. It was listed as a temporary sediment basin. So all that being said, and looking at the believe me, in going through the approvals and everything, there are things that are a bit contradictory and everything, but what my client's goal is at this point is to, and I'm making the assumption, although I haven't gotten notice, that the zone change was approved that night after they concluded the public hearing.
Turner, I think you're right.
Yeah, and well, the chairman of planning and zoning said, that they were all in favor of it and everything. We had gone through subcommittee and everything. So that being done, the next step that we have is to file. Now that that's approved, there should have been an effective date set. Once that's done, we had already, before we even addressed this, we had already tentatively set up a meeting with the engineers, and we've begun preliminary discussions on filing the special exception application. And the special exception application would have to be simultaneously with or after the wetlands application that would have to be addressed, because there would be there will be, I can't say if there will be more work in the upland review area. And we need to also correct the issues of the conservation easement. So that's how we're going to address the problems. But the area in the back is, I mean, if you walk out there, it's hard to see it in that picture, but if you walk out there, you see a lot of the disturbed area is, where they did the work back in 2008, 2009, whenever 2010, it's somewhat overgrown back again. And the area of the conservation easement is relatively natural. I will state that to the memory of, I think, Mr. Bjorklund, if you look at the plan back then, it shows plantings, which I found to be a little bit odd because it is a very heavily treed, naturally buffered area. I guess it's up against a former rail line that runs along there. Yeah, so, and what Mr. Bjorklund said was that subsequent discussions with the personnel back at that point was that it would be kind of foolish to rip out natural natural trees and plant trees. I mean, it would be, so they, even though it showed it on the original plan, because that was one of the first questions I asked looking at the plans from back then. And Mr. Bjorklund was involved, their office was involved with Mr. Kimball, in the application back then. So it's not, I'm giving you the history not to challenge the violation, but to say we're going to address it with a full-blown application for a special exception. And that's what we're going to do. If you walk back there, there's nothing flowing into the wetlands. There's no disturbed areas that are creating pollution into the wetlands for heavy rain. As a matter of fact, I believe the day we were out there was the day after the deluge, the Monday deluge. You know, that whatever.
Last
So,
Tuesday?
no, it was a Monday. The deluge was on a Monday. We were out there on a Tuesday, and we were freezing our, what off, walking around because the temperature had dropped. And that Monday was when we had those horrible downpours and everything. And I mean, I've done this enough and walked around enough sites to be able to see, pattern flows of sediment or, something like that where we're breaking. There was no evidence of that. A lot of the area that was referred to is, I don't know, around the sediment pond and everything like that. You could see the ponding, but it's all grown up around it. Certainly work needs to be done on it, but it's our intention to do the work with the special exception application, which we hope to file within the next, I would assume, a couple of months as we get the plans done.
So right now,
And there's going to be another building back there.
right now, you're not proposing any work be done?
Right now, we have to file applications.
Right.
Yeah.
So you're not, the only thing that you guys would propose to address what we're saying is violations is to wait for the special exception.
Well, what I'd like, there are certain things we can address right now. I mean, we couldn't address the issue of the conservation easement, which was approved, because even though, again, I may need to spend some time. This month has been a difficult month for me between some vacations, and I'm leaving Friday to go out and visit my youngest granddaughter out in LA, so where the sun will be shining for 5 days, according to the weather. But I do need to probably sit in the land use office, pull the files, but even though the work was done under the wetlands permit within the 5 years, then after the 5 years, any work not done, of course, it would expire. You have to go in and request renewal, but we're not concerned with any renewals. We're going to file for a new permit. But the conservation easement area, that wouldn't expire, the requirement to do that. So we can resolve the conservation easement. Again, in discussions with both your land use people and your council, and the town council is in charge of conservation easements, we can, we can put up some monuments and do things. There are some other, we'd like to sit down with Scott and discuss issues of some cleanup we can do right now. If there's any significant issues, probably with a site walk, have a work session on the site as we work towards the special exception application, which will obviously address all the issues because it's going to be creating a building in the back. And
How long before you'd have the design ready?
I would. Yes. Oh, there it is.
Yeah.
Would you say 30 to 60 days?
60 days.
60 days probably for the design.
She'd be back to us in 60 days.
We would be filing the applications in 60 days. I can't, I don't know your schedule and, your thing.
Understood.
Yeah.
What else we got?
You wouldn't happen to have a copy of the Phase 2 plan that was,
I have a copy.
do we have it on
No, I don't.
digital?
Oh.
I'm just
No?
curious to see what
Oh,
Phase
okay.
2 was.
Yeah, we don't.
That was, and I don't know how much was it
What you sent me,
approved, or was
Bill?
it?
Oh, no,
No.
you didn't send me on.
Oh, it's on this.
Okay.
We get a switch. Is there
There's
another?
another one on the other side.
There isn't, there's a toggle in there.
Oh,
for-
they have the other.
Yeah.
So is the purple, is that wetlands or is that conservation easement?
that isn't mine, so that's something that your staff.
Well, purple is
The
disturbance.
conservation easement, whoops.
Sorry.
The phase two design, if, for some reason that isn't approved, will there be enough information on the plan to actually get the work done?
What do you mean by not approved?
Let's say we don't approve it.
Okay, it would be a very difficult thing because it was already, again, at one point addressed, and I don't think there's any adverse impact upon wetlands or anything like that.
No, understood, but are these plans gonna give us the opportunity to not say, okay, well, we have to go back and look at it all over again?
No,
You-
just a
Well, we
You
clarification.
are gonna have to go back.
Phase two is just a concept.
That's what I thought.
It wasn't an approval of phase two, it was a approval of the concept, and, you know, the expectation was that that's what they would be proposing, and I think everybody was receptive to it.
Okay.
But it wasn't an approval that lapsed on that.
From a zoning perspective, the building was approved. From a wetlands perspective, and David can speak to it better than I can, because I asked him, wetlands, I read the approval, and wetlands said there's 1.8 acres of regulated activity. So I said, you know, it says JD after my name, not PE, so I said to David, tell me, does the 1.8 acres, and what I'm handing up to you, this is, yes, that's it. And I said to him, the amount of regulated activity on that plan, which includes.
Why don't you blow it up a little more, because you
Yeah.
can't quite see
Well, all
it.
right, just before we do, the one point, I did this afternoon. This is the regulated area, right in here. And between that regulated area and the limit of disturbance along here and down through here is approximately the 1.8 acres that was part of the original application. It was also the 1.8 acres that was approved. Now, what was included in that area was obviously the building that's there, the parking lot in the back, and then this proposed building for phase two, along with its parking areas, and this is the septic system for the phase two building. That area that you saw in purple on the other plan was this temporary sediment basin in here. So the approval, the application was for 1.8 acres. The approval listed 1.8 acres, and that's between phase one and phase two is where it is.
So planning and zoning did not approve a building, but wetlands approved the site work related to both. You know, because obviously wetlands approves regulated areas, you don't approve buildings. So
And that needs to be clarified, because I don't fully follow that.
And you're absolutely right, because when you read the decision back then, it has ambiguities in it, but what I looked for was something in the approval. My important thing was to look for something in the approval that referenced the amount of regulated activity was being approved. So obviously, just because the application said 1.8 acres, that wasn't anything approved. But in going through the approval dated January 25th, 2006, and I can hand out copies to you, but regulated activities, it says there are no direct wetlands impact proposed. Approximately 1.8 acres of activities are proposed. These included construction of access road, portions of the parking, and stormwater detention basins. So then I read the rest of the lengthy approval to see whether or not there's any pullback on that, you know, whether or not there's any things on that, and I couldn't find anything, and then it ends with the application is approved. So I will agree with Scott that there's some ambiguity going. We're not here to say, hey, you know what? We got an approval, screw you guys. You know what I mean? That's not our attitude here. The point is, I just wanted to point out, this isn't a situation where some client just ignored you, blew you off, you know, back in 2007, 8, 9, whenever it was. They were working within that framework. The recession occurred. The second building never got built. Then issues developed with the first building and those issues with zoning and everything. There were issues in wetlands. In 2012, the client did remediation or something. Again, before I was involved, there was some work done. There was a no-mow or certain plantings were done on the, lawyers use left, right. On the left side of the building as you're facing it. And then subsequent to that point, I was called in with respect to resolving some issues that mainly related to zoning and uses, and now we're flowing into the, to the phase of the special exception.
Could you reiterate the date of that approval? letter that
Yes.
you-
As a matter of fact,
Here's a copy.
I went ahead,
Just thinking.
when you're sitting at your desk and you can print them out without worrying about it. You don't want the zoning application, so here you go, here's the packet that I received. This is the application and the approval.
Thank you.
Here's your- This is from Spath Bjorklund's
Do you want to
records.
stamp them all first?
Scott?
Do you want to stamp them all first, or you just want the main one?
Just the main one.
Was there enough?
I think so.
I believe,
Yeah, I
yes,
have.
there are.
Okay, so those are, that's the, I think, the wetlands application. Hopefully you all got the wetlands and not the zoning application, because they also looked at the zoning application, which both were in the name of the Kimball Group, just to make sure, and as Scott said, the zoning application approved, discussed phase one and phase two and approved in
Okay,
phase one.
so this was dated January 25th, 2006.
Yes.
Yeah, and
Okay.
I'd have to pull out the file. I seem to recall that there was a plan that showed.
There was an alt 2 plan, which apparently, if you read this, was for some mitigation purpose, which did not show phase two. It showed something in the front. I have looked at it, blown it up on my computer, done whatever I can, because it was sent to me by, it was sent to me, it was an alt 2 plan, and the only notices that I saw on it were things like groundwater recharge system with COTG. I don't know. You know, there were, huh?
Ready to drink.
Yeah, and I think
There were-
that
yeah.
I mean, the goal of this thing, I don't think the goal is to say that they don't want a building back there. I mean, it's a
Yeah.
kind of a moot issue, because you're gonna be coming in with an application anyway to do something back there, which is fine. I mean, it was a phase two. Really, what's happening is, this is more of a schedule issue with just trying to move the thing along. And he's right, I mean, he's been working with planning and zoning, they've got a zone change to allow a different use in the front building. There was a violation on the side over here because they didn't follow the original plan, that's been resolved. And we're at the point where we're evaluating the bond, but the bond you can't release the bond because there's all this disturbance back here that if it's not, if it, it lapsed and it either you have to get reinstated or a new approval, because as he said, part of the approval was there, part of it wasn't there. So they either need to procure the approval or restore the land at this point. So we're just trying to move it along and get them to decide which direction they're gonna go.
And we're gonna go in for new approval. I mean, in doing it, that's the easiest way to handle it. So like I said, as you heard Ms. Borkland, that our approach would be to try to get back. Obviously, under statutes, we need to file your application prior to or simultaneously with the special exception application.
So I guess the only thing we need to decide is a timeframe, right?
That's right, that's really the
And they're
purpose of it.
saying, and if I heard correctly, there's 60 days is what you guys are.
60 days, yeah. I would hope the target would be at the beginning of July to be able to have filed both applications.
So as a commission, do we believe that 60 days is realistic and fair on all accounts?
I think so.
they can live with 60 days. I say, if you can live with that, that's great.
Usually the engineer's issue. My job is
Well,
really,
I just,
my
I
job
don't know if
I haven't heard from you.
anyone's
Yeah.
made their
No, no.
deadline since I've been here, that's why I'm
what I
asking.
mean is, it really takes me about an afternoon to do the application. The plans are a little bit different.
Understood.
Unless you want me to do the plans, which that would be a good idea.
All right. So it's,
What's 60 days bring us to?
Brings us to the end of June.
Okay, so the first meeting in July?
we have one meeting in
So
July.
We only
Meeting,
have
and that's
one
the
meeting
end
in
of
July.
July.
So do you want to go to the
Please,
July meeting? Or-
oh, no, you wouldn't be meeting on July 4th, right?
No.
No, no, we'll be here. We'll be here.
Well, I'll be on my way to Ireland, so.
So do you want to, I mean, do you want to push this out to August? Is that what you want to, is that?
Only one meeting in August, right?
Oh,
No,
July
we should be,
25th.
yeah, July, the end of July.
July
So
25th
that gives
is
you a
fine.
few more weeks.
July 25th is fine.
Excellent. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate you coming in.
No problem.
Don't forget your stick.
Is that your stick drive up there? Or is that ours?
Yeah, it's yours stick. Yeah, okay.
And you're not finished
But
with it
he's
yet?
here, he's not, yeah, you're here for another one.
Okay.
People's jobs just never end.
Good night.
All right. All right, IWV 2018-03, 344 Gardner Road, Wayne Michalka?
Yes.
Did I get that first try?
Both 344 and 336 are postponed to the next meeting. They called and,
They're actually coming in on May 2nd
yeah, they're gonna
in
meet with
office.
a staff first, and then they're hoping to come to the following.
Okay, so for our records, postponed until May 9th.
Correct,
Yeah.
correct.
Yes.
Excellent. Anybody left should go as fast as those two just went.
Yeah, great.
Okay, moving on to remediation submissions, IWC 2016-10, 15 Owl Hill Road, Karuba, modification to a previously approved planting plan, remediation approved for violation IWB 2015-19, the original violation, and citation number ICP 2017-07, that was issued for non-completed work by the deadline of 11/21/16. This is continued from our last meeting. Good evening.
Good evening. My name is Jeff Davenport from New England Community.
That is not our fund drive.
Oh,
It's Bill's.
We were here 2 weeks ago, and there was concerns about the plant list. We've revised the plant list
Okay.
to include approved wetlands plantings and remove any non-approved and invasives.
Before you go too far, when I got your plan, it was a little hard to hold it up, and I made a copy of it, so we're gonna get them put it up there. You guys might find that the colored one hopefully is a little easier to follow here. And you could point out anything that it was kind of hard to see.
Well, you have more pens than I do.
Yeah. Yeah, well, let's make it even smaller, I guess. Yeah, so you can pan through this if you use the mouse and to explain to them what each item is, but I just colored each different
No,
variety.
just colorized. We don't have a copy of
We
it.
don't have anything? So we don't have anything, the only thing that we're looking at is on the wall, we don't have.
You
the-
have, I thought you had.
Yeah, you.
Yeah, we've got
Which
that
one is it?
below.
Is it
Oh,
this, is it?
We do?
Um,
Was that from
This
last
one's
year?
dated April
Last, or was that
23rd.
this one?
No, this is the new one.
So this-
April
is this it?
23rd.
yeah.
Okay, so
Yeah,
that's the
so
one.
I took
Okay.
that
It
plan.
just
and
looked
I-
different than.
Yeah, it's right there.
It's the same plan, you go, he what he's saying is you just
But
color
it's
it.
got pretty
It's the
colors on
revised
it.
Well, I knew you wouldn't be able to read it.
All right, everybody,
You're right,
calm
you're
down.
right. I
Don't
was
make me
looking-
bend your hammer.
Thank you.
Um,
Kind of stay for
The specific locations in given in that we've taken the, I guess, the purple pieces off, which were privet. So the planting locations of the new plants, with the exception of the ones that were still on the list, which are the trees, and the Arnold Promise, the Viburnum, and the Anilankia, those all stay from the previous plan. The new pieces are the sweet pepper bush, the meadow sweet, northern bayberry, and red chokeberry. But the pin oak, black locust, and white spruce stay in those locations that are specified. But I didn't rechange the locations for the new plants added. So they'll probably change as far as the placements of them.
Yeah, I just drew a circle where the line ended.
Yeah.
basically,
So
you're-
I didn't redo the locations.
Yeah, okay.
From the old plants that I took off to the new plants. Just the list itself.
So we just changed
I think
the,
when I get there,
Field
and I
place.
have all the yes,
so the changes from last week are just the types of plants?
correct.
Okay. So, before we proceed, we all received, one of our commissioners is not here, and he's a professional. He emailed us some notes. Should we read that into the record?
Yeah.
Or, we should read it, right, into the
Yeah,
record?
I would say so, yeah.
Who has to do that? Is it me?
Yeah, you or Lois can do that.
I'm gonna make Lois do it.
Okay. Shall I get them
I
right?
hate to read.
I knew
No,
there
I
was a
got it,
reason
I
why I
got
was the treasurer.
I got my cheaters on.
Do you want me to do it? I'll do it. If you
That
can't
was
see it, I'll
good,
do it.
I
good night
can
move, but I couldn't, yeah. That was it.
No, I can see, it's okay. All right, this is from Jeff Shamus. It was received today, Wednesday, at April 25th. And it says, I had a chance to review and little typo there. I had the chance to review and the proposed revised planting plan and find that I do not understand why invasive species, non-native and mismatched species for habitat types would be proposed within wetlands and their buffers. Specifically, I offer the following. Andromeda species native to eastern China, not New England, and they propose this in the wetland. It is also not a wetland plant. Black locust, absolutely not. Has a few native populations in southeastern U.S., however, is found on the east. The native species name is, oh my God, now I know why you wanted me to read this. Robinia pseudoacacia,
Oh,
not Gladitia false. Not bad. Furthermore, please be advised that the black locust has been listed as invasive in Connecticut and prohibited in Massachusetts. This is also not a wetland species, and they propose it in the wetland. 3, privet, absolutely not at all, especially in the buffer. I understand this may be an ornamental, but 3 species of privet are also listed as invasive on the Connecticut invasive species list, and 1 species is prohibited by statute. Arnold Promise appears to be a variety of native witch hazel. Amomilius virginiana. I don't have an issue with this in the buffer. Viburnum, while I like native wetland varieties, the proposed species is native to Korea, so that viburnum is not. All right. Number 6, pin oak, serviceberry, white spruce are fine for the wetlands and for the buffer. Ultimately, there is no reason why the commission should approve the drastic change that includes invasive species and incompatible species to habitat types versus the originally approved planting plan, which is appropriate. Is there a monitoring plan that was approved too? I know the contractor is pushing larger species versus smaller, but that does not outweigh the species types they propose. Hope this helps. Jeff Shamus.
Okay, so for the record, Jeff Shamus is our vice chair, and he is a licensed wetland scientist, soil scientist,
And wetlands biologist.
and wetlands biologist, I believe, correct?
Yeah, I think that those are his only credentials, or is it more? He's got a whole list of.
So
He unfortunately
if
is
I may.
not able to be
Yeah,
here
that's
tonight, and one of the reasons why we continued it from last one is so that he could take a look.
Right.
Unfortunately, he could not be here.
Well, 2 of the pieces that he mentioned in his letter are not on this new list.
The verbatim,
Is the Andromeda and the privet.
Right.
Those are, have been taken
Okay.
off, and
those
are
are the
from
initial
trees.
ones that we had issues with.
Right.
Okay,
Now, the black locust is still on the list, which he doesn't like. Not because it's classified as invasive in Connecticut, but it's He just doesn't like it for.
Well, it is
for-
classified,
It is,
it is
For enough
classified
land.
as invasive in Connecticut and is prohibited in the
Oh, it's
neighboring
permitted
state.
in Massachusetts, okay.
Right.
So, I mean, if we need to take that off, we'll take that off. I don't remember anything else in the, oh, he didn't like the viburnum, the five viburnum, because they're from Japan and not
Korea.
Korea.
North Korea.
So
I can't summarize.
viburnum is, so it is his position that viburnum is not a wetland species,
Yeah, well, yeah, he likes them, but he doesn't like
a
them.
native
Like
wetland.
He doesn't like it, it's not native.
right.
Okay, so we could take that off. Take the black locust off. That's 12 pieces. And I propose that we add another 15 meadow sweet. So we're taking 12 pieces off and adding another 15 meadow sweet.
What is meadow sweep?
Spirea latifolia. It's on this list. It's already on this list. I'm just increasing the amount.
It's on this one, but it's not addressed by Jeff.
Oh, he didn't address the spirea?
No.
Well, it wasn't, was it in the?
It wasn't
was it-
highlighted, unless
was it
that's
there
considered-
before?
he
Was it
said
on the
that-
list before?
The
The
pine oak-
original list from however many years ago?
It was on that.
Not my list, but the original list from.
Okay, so you took the original approved planting list.
Yeah.
So what on this list doesn't come from the approved list that hasn't been discussed? Follow me?
Just anything falling through you mean,
Yes.
as far as what Jeff has talked about and what was on the original approved list?
Yes.
Jeff talked about the pin oak, which are fine.
He did,
Let me start from the top.
okay.
Yeah,
The
that helps.
Arnold promise he has no problem with, he mentioned it in the letter. Correct?
Yes.
It's just some
Yep.
sort of viburnum, I don't have a
That's
problem.
Okay,
Yeah.
The viburnum below, he has an issue with that,
okay.
because it's from North Korea.
It's just Korea,
The
it's not a native
the
species.
Analankia, did he mention the Analankia? The
Service
service
berry?
berry?
Yeah,
We've
he-
seen
Service
service
berry,
berry
he's okay with,
before,
Okay.
yeah.
fine for wetlands and buffer.
So the sweet pepper bush, that's an
That's
original
always fine.
wetlands from the.
From the original
Solely.
approval.
The meadow sweet,
That's-
that's from the original, not mine, but from the original plant list.
Okay.
Northern bayberry and the red chokeberry,
Those are both from the original.
right? Pin oak, he said fine.
Mhm.
Black locust, not so much.
Did not like it.
Didn't like it.
And the spruce he didn't mention.
White spruce
He liked
is a native,
Yeah,
it's
he
one of
liked
the
it.
only
He
native.
likes that.
That's under number 6 of our list.
So what I'm saying, let's take the black locust off.
Okay,
Let's take the Carisi viburnum off, which he doesn't like.
okay.
And then we add 15 more plants of the approved, which you did like, of the Spirea latifolia.
There's a wetlands point.
I think that came from
That's from
the original list. Let me see.
I might not.
The original list is actually there.
You know.
Yeah, if you look on your plan, here's their
Yeah.
proposed list, and on the other
Actually,
side
I was here.
this is the original.
Look on the other
list.
side of that plan, Ross.
Yeah, see, this is on the original.
That's what we originally approved.
That's the original.
Well, they're all,
I mean, it's
nothing is
almost
really
on the
going in the
it's almost on
wetlands,
the
right?
third
Everything's
from
Yeah,
the
the
got-
whole
bottom.
thing, no, that
It's
whole
all wet.
conservation area is
Yeah,
wet.
but it's all above, it's all in the buffer area.
No, there are some plants in
Are
the
there?
wetland, you'll see here.
Because they clear a lot of wetland.
This is the wetland,
Yeah,
so there are a couple down here, like these, it's jumped on me, hold on. I think I have this blown up too much.
I thought it was like.
Which
right-
one did you propose on
Okay.
adding the 15? We're taking out the
Yeah,
red,
so-
we're taking out the black locust, and
See
you want to add the sweet meadow?
wetlands is here,
Yes.
Meadow sweep.
Meadow sweet.
BL4,
so the BL4 is in wetlands,
that's the black locust.
and I think that's it. Yeah, that's the only one in the
So
wetlands.
So refresh me again, please, because I'm getting confused. The black locust you're going to replace with,
more meadow sweet, so.
15
And the
15 more meadows.
The SB3 is in the wetland too.
the meadow sweep is the,
So listen to me, on our, just to make this more clear as mud,
oh, that's the spirea.
in
And
our original approval, we approved, there was supposed to be 10 meadow sweet. So if we do that change, we only have 5 more meadow sweet than in the original approval.
So
But to Ross's comment, now Ross is a licensed, what's your
Plant man?
landscape architect?
No, landscape is,
Landscape design, so he's got his credentials. And he said that spirea is not a wetland plant. Why would we plant non-wetland plants in a wetland? We can't do that.
We okay with
Can I ask, what are your credentials?
Well, Jeff, you just talked, your guy just approved it.
He
No, not
didn't replace
Meadowscape.
one for one. He just said what he approved and what he didn't approve. He didn't say where
Well, if
he
you'd
approved
like,
them,
you
and he didn't
can,
say how many. But back to my question, what are your credentials, if I may ask?
I can drive a truck,
That's good. Me too.
I'm landscape install, I grow, I'm a grower,
So you don't have any certificates or any official training?
no.
See, one of the things that says in our regs is that the planting plan is to be presented by an appropriate professional. So I'm not sure that it's,
Can we, could we
I don't
take
need to
out,
do this,
instead of
but-
saying that all 15 are gonna be the meadow suite,
Yeah, you want to add something different?
can
That's
we
fine.
whack up that 15 of the 3 that are fine for wetland and
Yeah.
buffer, which is the pine oak, the serviceberry, and the white spruce? Because our professional says that those are good for the wetland and
not meadowsweet.
I'm telling you that instead of the meadow suite.
But you see, it's not our job to build this plan.
I
We had a
understand, but
plan.
this is dragging, and when we have some decent information, and if we can come to some
We
sort of
have
agreement.
some, but I mean, the problem is also that when they were proposing their new plants, they were proposing much, much, much bigger plants to take up more space. Now, a lot of those bigger ones have disappeared, so now we have more space. I'm not sure that this is appropriate for us to be approving when we don't know what we're talking about.
I'm just trying to go off with the information that we have.
I
here
understand that, and I
to-
think it's
to,
good, but
to push this along.
because it's a conservation area, because it's a wetland, because it's a sensitive thing and it's supposed to be fixed, it should be done by the applicant, especially since he's the one proposing different plants, not us. We didn't go to them and say, change everything,
I understand.
so.
If we can,
I'm proposing plants that were on the original approval. The changes here are plants from the original approval. But if you
But
don't,
did you
if
go
if
back
Jeff
to the
didn't,
same
com-
numbers?
if Jeff didn't comment on the meadow suite, then fine, we'll add 15 of something else.
Okay, why don't we talk about taking the black locust off and picking 7 trees that are on the,
well, I think
On
that's what
the-
he's saying now.
on the approved list, though, as opposed to putting in shrubs to the trees. Follow what I'm
Yeah,
saying?
we could do, how's Acer rubrum? Is that an okay, I mean, it's a wetlands plant, there's red maple swamps, right? So we could add Acer rubrum to the list. White oak is another one, swamp white oak is another one. I'm just trying to get this done.
Understood.
We understand that.
I am too.
Again, here's the list that originally was on the original list.
Are we still talking?
Now, bear in mind that there are a couple, as I said, there's a couple of plantings that are in wetlands, and they are the BL4,
Which is the black locust.
Yeah.
they are the BL3, there's a couple of them, and the
That's the additional,
That's-
that's the
they're
7
both
total on the
Yeah.
black.
and the SB3. Those are the ones, yeah. In this case, the SB3 is shown here in the wetland and here not in the wetland.
That's the service
That's the
berry.
service berry.
Yeah.
Are you still talking a reduction in plants?
Yeah.
So, Ross, what's the difference in overall size between a service berry and a locust tree?
serviceberry, I'd say grows 15 to 20 feet maximum.
Yeah, these are 14 to 16 now. black locust will grow,
They're massive.
yeah.
So we're not covering as much ground as we would have had we used the black locust, so we may need more plants.
So let's add more trees.
I would say less trees, because when you have a lot of trees, they create this,
Well, it used to be a forest before it was cleared.
but not much grows below trees, you know? Things kind of thin out and not a lot for deer to eat and stuff like that, not that they're gonna get in there. But I would say more shrubs, stuff shorter than 15 feet. You might have a healthier understory.
So is that what we had originally?
You only had 6 trees.
And now we're taking out the locust. Those are the ones we're talking about?
Yeah, we're down to, right now, with no
We're down to
changes, we're down to
four-
4 trees.
trees.
So,
But how many shrubs did we replace with those trees that you had proposed last time?
well, the black locust it wasn't known to me when I did this, so.
Right, understood,
So we
understood, but I mean,
have to add back.
we had originally had about 40 shrubs. I'm doing a very quick math there.
They originally had 40 shrubs, there's more than 40 shrubs being proposed.
No, you had more, well, no, you had more.
Well, we're losing the 5 viburnum,
More than 40 shrubs proposed?
41, 46, right?
Well, you're talking about the original plant list from
No, I'm
years
talking
ago?
about your plant list.
Yeah, no, you're, are you trying to talk, are you
I'm just
speaking
trying
to
to make
the
sure that
original
we're-
list,
we're
not my list?
Say that again?
Are you speaking to the original list from Solely, not my list, when you asked me how many shrubs?
Yeah, I'm just trying to make sure that we're exchanging apples for apples and not apples for raisins.
Not apples for black locusts.
Or apples for raisins, you know, an apple versus a raisin, you know.
So what are we trying to make up, 7 plants?
So Ross, you'd like to see more shrubs versus,
White spruce for.
okay,
there's
so
no
how
law.
about if we add back white spruce instead of the locust, okay? So we'll add 7 white spruce.
Will they survive in the wetland, the white spruce?
Well, see, this had, I believe, had been filled. It's not at the elevation of the wetlands. It's lawn now. So, yes, the answer to your question, I can answer that. That'll survive, yes.
There's no standing water in that area.
Right, there's no standing water.
And for the record, our resident expert says that white spruce is fine for wetlands and buffer.
Okay, good.
So now we've added back that. We've added back the trees.
So you're gonna go,
So-
we're losing 7 black locusts and adding back 8.
Now we're up to 8
White
white
spruce.
spruce. He did like the northern bayberry, correct? He commented on that.
Did he?
He did not.
No comment. Sweet pepper bush, did you comment on?
No, but I know, we see them a lot. They're-
Serviceberry
should be fine.
and white spruce.
You're fine with pepper bush?
Yeah.
Okay. So why don't we leave the spirea, the meadow sweet, at 5, like I had originally, and increase the pepper bush to 40.
I didn't say anything.
Okay.
You're good.
When you're all done, you're just gonna have to relay to us what you're
Yeah.
approving, so we can get it on paper.
Okay.
That's all.
Okay, so can I, please tell me if there's anything that if there's an issue here. The Arnold Promise stays, which Jeff commented on.
Right.
Viburnum goes away.
You gotta spell some of these correctly, too.
Uh,
I mean, is that important?
No.
What's that?
I don't know.
Some of the spelling on this plan is.
I have no idea what,
Analankia? Oh, that's supposed to be an N.
The witch hazel spelled wrong, the viburnum spelled wrong. Does that matter?
well, viburnum's going away.
If viburnum's going away.
They should be
Well, yeah,
spelled
spelling does
correctly. I mean,
count,
you know.
So Analankia stays at 3. The sweet pepper bush goes to 40. The spirea stays at 5. The northern bayberry stays at 10. The red chokeberry stays at 10. The pin oak stays at 3. The black locust goes away. And the white spruce increases to 8. So just for edification, we're looking at the original plan from Solely is right around 96 pieces, I think they were. I think I counted that back 2 weeks ago. We're at 81 now with larger plans.
Okay. And the placement will be approximately where you put them
There's no
on?
magic to that. But if you'd like me to place it right where it is, I can, yeah. I just
Well,
like
it's
to
easier-
look aesthetically when we
Yes,
do it.
understood.
Larger stuff in the back,
Well,
smaller
it's
stuff in the
easier
front.
for our professional who goes out and looks at this thing, if they are put where they're said they're gonna be put, so he can look and say, oh, or he or she can look and say, okay, that's there.
Yeah.
You know, but if you put it someplace else,
We're not, I mean,
it's,
no one's measuring it.
yeah, we're not measuring,
mean,
but we need a
approximate.
general approximate.
You understand, you gotta move it to the
Yeah.
left a foot, because you
Sure,
got a boulder.
it's a rock.
But it's all the same soil material, so there's no issue with,
That's right.
yeah. So, I mean, it's just
Yeah,
aesthetics,
okay.
really,
I didn't even,
it's,
Were you still proposing the meadow sweep?
Just
Yes.
5 of them.
yes,
Yeah.
just staying at
Okay.
5.
All right, so,
The Arnold Promise, I keep wanting to say Arnold Palmer.
it's making me thirsty.
I've never seen this plant before, but I went and looked at it in January. Full bloom,
Full bloom in January?
yeah,
Yeah.
it's
Really?
crazy.
How about that?
Unbelievable.
And how many of the,
The
that
flowers
stays at
come
2?
out in the sun, and then they go back in at night.
Cool.
Yeah.
Is that,
Yeah, the winter flowers, yeah.
I
Yeah,
believe you.
crazy.
And that's staying at 2?
Yeah,
Okay. And the viburnum is gone, right?
gone,
Okay. I just want to have my,
Send it back to Korea.
right.
All right.
all right, thank you.
Are we out, anything else from commission? Donna and Scott, are you there? I think we have it recorded, but you guys have the list written down.
I'm gonna just say it one more time so that you
It can be
guys
clear.
confirm. Yes, please.
Thank you.
So meadow sweep, we have 5, sweet pepper 40, spirea 5, northern bayberry 10, chokeberry 10, pin oak 3, and white spruce 8. Is that correct?
Did you
have the
say
Arnold-
Analykia?
I did
Second
not.
piece?
Did you have the Arnold Promise in there?
I don't.
Yeah, that's staying
Okay.
at
Arnold
2.
Promise is 2. And the service berry was how many?
3.
3. Oh, that's staying, okay.
And locations now, does it matter where the locations, I mean, all the ones that were originally on the original plan are pretty much staying where they were in the first place. The new ones, I mean,
Generally
I
in the
know,
same
I
place.
know.
How's that?
what?
Generally? Sporadically?
Well, I think what Scott is trying to say without saying is that it's really hard for them to go out in the field without having a plan to look at.
And
Yeah, I mean,
sign off on it.
if I don't have a plan, we're gonna have to have the plan, he's gonna have to
Can-
revise the plan.
Yeah, could I get things set up and then have you come out and take a look before we plan?
Well,
We trust you.
But I think that it
That's
needs to
not the
be,
point.
I think the point of our
I'll tell you right
our
off the
agent-
bat, don't trust me with landscaping, because I don't know a thing about it. I don't know anything about landscaping.
Which is why I think the point here is that it needs to be written in a plan that can be recorded, so that if it comes back and you say, hey, did they ever fix that violation and citation?
What's
Pull the
your
plans.
window for planting?
I've got to dig these things, some of these things. The other things are just gonna be from a wholesale yard. But I have to dig these trees, and I have to dig them now, because it's gonna be 80 degrees next week. And then I won't be able to dig them till fall.
And you have to get them in the ground right away.
I have to dig them. No, they can sit above ground, but they need to be dug.
When's our next meeting?
And especially the deciduous
May
trees,
9th.
which are the
May 9th, which is
the pin oaks.
3 weeks away.
Any of the leaf stuff has to be done now,
It's gonna be 80 next week?
Wednesday, Thursday.
You're gonna skip spring and go right into summer.
Does it make sense for me to just come in with this, the plan, as far as all these new numbers and get it to you? And
Oh,
so
yeah, I
when,
mean, he could bring me the plan, it's just that I don't know if that's acceptable to you, you know what I'm saying?
It's like normal.
I'm just looking for direction on how to.
I
So
know,
are you saying that you're gonna, in your mind, when you look at this plan that you submitted, that you're gonna be in the, how close you gonna be to making your marks there with those specific plants?
well, the white spruce makes sense to put them in the back. So the locusts go away and the white spruce
That's
are put
fine.
in their spots.
I think you-
So
I
that
think we
makes
have all
sense.
of them.
Because the locusts were in the back. So putting the white spruce in the back and the 3 pin oak where they originally are set makes sense.
So those aren't gonna change?
No, but the bushes, I mean, you get 50 bushes and you know, you look for,
A spot to stick them in.
So
it's aesthetically nice also when you're.
If the location's not important to you, then we'll go with the amount. And
Yeah.
we'll just, we'll get the plan and.
Yeah, generally like this.
And
Yeah.
not over the entire area, not just all clustered in one area with
No.
a big expansive lawn
Because
over
that
there.
aesthetically looks poor.
You know.
I mean, I like doing things in 3s and
Well, yeah,
5s,
he's
but
gonna have to get
it's gotta be
Scott a
spread out
plan
amongst.
of what he proposes, and then Scott can use his professional engineering degree
How are you getting
and say,
I
it
can
looks
get in
pretty
there.
good, and
These
Yeah,
spruce are massive.
They're not that big. 14 to 16s? Not for me.
Root balls, just big.
They'll be 42s, 36s. Not much bigger than
All right, so we can work out the
no
details.
bigger than
If-
42.
If you think that he's given you enough and you can deliberate, then let's move on and we'll resolve it and do it.
Okay.
We have to go in there and do these little retention galleys with, so we're gonna have a machine going in there to dig these,
Those mulch
mulch.
babies, yeah.
So we're gonna have a machine in there. So to bring the root balls in is not a big deal.
All right.
The
Anything else
oaks,
from-
the oaks and the oaks will be a 42 also. They're 4-inch caliber, I believe.
And you're gonna be capable of keeping these things alive?
Oh, yeah, yeah. We have irrigation already on site. Is that correct? We have
Yes,
we could put,
the entire area has a sprinkler system.
Right.
Now, I think that has to be tied off for the part that goes in the wetlands. I don't know if you want to leave it there until this stuff starts to grow, and then we can cut off the section.
yeah, in a year.
That brings up another point. Are we monitoring growth?
Do we
I
have-
believe this had a model.
do you
It
have
had
a
monitoring in there, okay.
Okay.
All right,
We need irrigation until the monitoring is over?
yeah.
Yeah, then we'll cut it off, and all we have to do is, it's a couple of different sections. We got to
Mr.
cut off
Soretta,
that section.
Do me a favor, introduce yourself for the record,
Yeah,
please.
yeah. Tom Soretta, 5 Shawnee Lane. I've been a resident of Monroe for 32 years, and I'm the property manager for Karuba and Maper Properties that owns this property.
Thank you.
And the whole backyard, whole yard has got a sprinkler system, but we know we have to cut it off, but I'm happy we didn't do that already, because now that'll help it grow, and then, like you said, after 1 year, whatever they watch it, then we'll cut off the security, the water system.
So it includes a 3-year monitoring unless the previous approval stated something else.
Okay,
Okay.
3-year monitor. All right, anything else from the commission? Anything else from the applicant? Okay, we will deliberate. Thanks so
Thank
much,
you.
guys.
Okay, thank
Appreciate you
you.
coming back in.
Thank you.
I'll tell you what I'm worried about. All right, everybody's okay, we're moving right along to other. IWC 2016-09, file number 994, 234, 246 Main Street, Sippin. Plants discussion, right? That's the one we moved
Yes.
from below. Good evening.
Good evening, members of the commission. My name is Dave Bjorklund. I'm president of the firm of Scott Bjorklund Associates. Like Scott, I know nothing about landscaping. If we could talk about some,
I know what crabgrass looks like.
Yeah, right.
All I know is when I plant it, the deer eat it.
Well, that's good for habitat.
Yeah, it's great.
I believe it was 2 meetings ago, a planting plan was submitted for 234 Main Street, actually 246 Main Street, in a wetland restoration area. And the commission had questions on the selection of 2 of the species. One was a white spruce and the other one was an inkberry. Through some joint emails between myself, Scott, and Mike Klein of Davison Environmental, Mike took a look at the planting at the inkberry and the white spruce, and he relayed by email several substitutions. He indicated that if inkberry is not acceptable, a red osier dogwood would be acceptable, or sweet pepper bush could be substituted. And then with regards to the white spruce, he indicated that black spruce or an arborvitae could be substituted. We revised our plan, the planting list, and we added an asterisk and a double asterisk next to the inkberry and the white spruce as to what, and then down below on the planting plan, we indicated these as possible substitutions. We don't have a preference as to what gets planted, but
Do you have it on your stick drive, Bill? All right. Sorry.
Yeah, the plan I had is the previous one.
That's the old one.
So you were saying you don't have a preference, you just...
no, what we did was we turned to Mike Klein and we said, Mike, are these acceptable? And with respect to the inkberry, he even got us some backup from UConn on it. But we have no preference. We're doing a wetland restoration. We had a meeting in the field last week out there with Scott and Conrad, and the work on the restoration is progressing. Some of the debris has been removed, the area has been staked out, the erosion control is in. We went over the process for the removal of the material, where the material was going to go and be stored, and as soon and if ever things dry out, the contractor is ready to go in and start to do the work. So this is the plan as revised, and you can see next to the white spruce we have a single asterisk, and the inkberry, and then down below here we said the alternative is black spruce or arborvitae, and the alternate is the dogwood and or the clethra, sweet pepper bush. And the locations would be the same. We're not talking about a lot of plants. So we have 3 of the white spruce, which, as you discussed in the last application, is an acceptable plant. And then in the inkberry, there's 7 of them. We'd keep the same location, but just substitute them. Again, we just want to be able to know what we have to order so that when the material does come out, we can get in and plant before, and this isn't happening in the middle of the summer.
I'm thinking that clethra in place of the inkberry.
Pardon?
Maybe the clethra in place of that inkberry?
I like clethra, so that's fine by me.
The arborvitae as a replacement, I think the deer are gonna eat them up. So maybe the black spruce. Or the white. don't remember why we had a problem with the white spruce.
I don't think we did.
What's that?
I didn't think we had a problem with the white spruce. Did we?
No.
So maybe either one that's available.
Change it.
Or do you
Because
have
we
to
wanted
stay
to
in
do
now?
it. I guess then we brought everything on.
Oh, yeah, that's all we want to do is go back to the original.
All right, so say it again, we got black spruce in lieu of inkberry, you said?
No,
No.
clethra in lieu of inkberry.
How do you spell that?
Clethra?
It's on the bottom of
It's on,
Clethra.
Yeah. Clethra artifolia.
I'll give you my plans.
I don't know folia.
Okay, so the first one's clethra in lieu of the inkberry, then what's next?
Black spruce in lieu of white spruce.
No, in lieu of arborvitae,
No.
right? Oh, in lieu of white, okay. What was I missed the first couple of, I was opening my plan, I missed the first couple of sentences that you said as to why this was being presented, and why,
The commission, it's my understanding, I wasn't at the meeting,
right,
but that some of the commission members, position of these plant species in wetland
oh,
restoration.
okay.
So that's, we turned back to my client and-
Okay.
and asked Mike, and Mike got back to both Scott and I and said,
Thank you for
This is it.
clarifying.
this is it.
Okay.
Okay, so you got
So then we
the
did blacks.
And we're
black
back to the
spruce in
area
lieu of
that
the
we
white
wanted to
spruce,
be.
and then what else?
And
Clethra.
the
Instead of
inkberry
inkberry.
is out and clethra is in.
Yeah, I got that. Clethra in lieu of inkberry, black spruce in lieu of the white spruce, and is that it?
Yeah,
That's it.
That's it.
Okay.
And we're back to the area that we wanted to be in.
and, right, and it's all of these plants that you have listed here are to go in that outlined area where the fill is being removed,
Right,
correct? Okay.
right, the restoration area.
Excellent.
Okay.
Anything else from the commission? No, staff? Good?
No, just to report, and when we walk this area, basically what's happening is they're gonna do the best they can with kind of filling in the slope. It's gonna be uneven, it's not gonna be uniform, which is good, you know, so it's not gonna be anything that can be mowed. We asked them to take some of the big boulders that are gonna get pulled out of the fill area and kind of just spread them around. Some of them will go at the top of slopes so that it'll prevent future encroachment and throwing things over the slope. And then the rest will get anywhere within that field area where the plants
With the
are.
upper areas, okay.
So that's what's happening with the slope. So there's a few areas that definitely are gonna get additional fill and topsoil. There's a couple of areas that are kind of grown in already that are steep with stones and rock that are, you know, it's not topsoil and grass, but yet it's stable. So kind of use judgment to come up with where they're gonna spot, treat it to soften it up and get it acting like more like a.
So you're not talking about putting any of the fill along the wetland edge, are you?
No, where the wetlands are down below, there's another pinch point over in here, I guess it is, and then one down below. Wherever it was close to the wetlands, he said he was gonna pull it back.
Okay.
If he even needed to do that. There were some areas that were a little on the steep side, but we were gonna kind of work with what was there instead of trying to, because it's not an easy thing to pull back because there's like big chunks of concrete and rock in there. So once if they start to do that, it's gonna make a big
Right.
mess.
Okay. Sounds good.
Okay, we good? Thank you very much, sir.
Thank
Appreciate
you.
it.
Thank you.
Okay. I think the next item up is Inland Wetlands Commission Agent Activities Report. No bond releases. Oh, we have to deliberate, I'm sorry.
Yes, we do.
Deliberate on completed hearings comes first.
I'm sorry, I jumped the gun, got excited.
Did you keep that file?
Have a peanut butter.
No, but
I had too many.
Clark?
It's this one right here.
I've had so many, I wanna have my
Okay. First one.
All right, everybody, let's push through these, deliberations here. So we did not, both regular meetings were postponed. Pepper Street, did we finish?
You
We
did
did.
not.
No.
you-
No, we did not. Pepper Street's moved on, so our first deliberation would be on 50 Cambridge Drive. So at this point, we need to direct Scott on what kind of letter he wants to compose. My input would be that we need to, we direct him to write an approval letter with a strongly worded paragraph about completing work and then asking for permission to do so. And however wordy magic Scott wants to do so.
Sounds good.
Other than that, I don't know that there's really any, does anybody have a condition they want to put on that Axle Plastics project?
No.
No.
Besides, don't do that again.
Right.
Yeah, I think all mine were addressed at $2,500 bond.
What are we bonding though? Or we're bonding
The
stuff
only
that's already
bonding
done?
is the disturbed area that they're going to dig up when they expand the parking area.
Okay, that's right.
There's a
I wasn't
small-
understanding it and I didn't want to let them know I didn't know what we were talking about.
What I would like to discuss is that he put a sign on the fenced area that says storage of only new unused totes.
And can we have them do some shrubs around it?
That's all.
It's on driveway.
On
It's
the
on
other side
driveway.
is grass, right? Behind
Yes,
it.
it is. The other side is grass, but it goes up against the wetlands. It's a wooded wetland.
There's
It's
not
not like
much-
there's no visual
Yeah.
appeal.
It looks like it's sloped right down into the wetlands.
So,
How do we maintain?
and we didn't talk to him about it during the meeting, so, throwing it at the last minute might be a little bit,
We closed the hearing.
yeah, it's closed, so I don't know if we can't really do anything more now.
How do we ensure that it's only empty stuff going in there though? Does it make
It's not-
sense that he's?
Well, no, he addressed that, though. He did say that it's by the regulations, he can't put out stuff that he's producing.
He also
out
said he
like
wasn't gonna build stuff.
I think you
Because
could,
it's a violation of federal and
He
something
violated
else.
he violated the wetland.
Yeah,
So,
well, I'm just talking about his chemicals, he can't.
I don't think he's gonna
can't
put his
move them
products outside in a chain behind
Right.
chain
you
fence.
can
Probably-
get them to put on the drawing that it's to be for clean,
New unused
new
containers.
unused material only as offered, as indicated, because he did indicate that during the hearing.
Let's do that.
Sounds good.
So does that go to like planning and zoning? Does anybody else find out about what's being stored there?
I think we're
Or
it.
is it just us, that's it?
Well, this goes to planning and zoning.
It does go.
Yeah, it's outside storage, so planning and zoning only allows 20% of the gross floor area for outside storage, and so that goes to them for an application. So they
Are
are,
they gonna have, do they have a problem with them doing work without
yeah,
any permission?
absolutely, yeah.
Are they letting,
They're not pleased, no, they're not pleased with that as well, so.
all right, so like I said, I would like more than half a letter to tell him not to do this again, but we could also make that, that he put on the plans it's be for use and for new and unused containers. I can only imagine those big containers filled with his product is thousands of dollars. But I can't imagine,
Yeah, I don't think he,
even if it wasn't,
Oh, no, one spill of that stuff, they'll have EPA coming in like a heartbeat to look at
well,
it.
he already did that when.
I gotta
he was
imagine
still on
that
the
he's
inside
more
of the building.
concerned with, the amount of money he would lose once that product was
Right.
bad.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
Or if someone steals it,
Right,
but,
which could be worse.
Okay, so those two notes, the bond, and I'll put a draft together for you.
Thank you, sir.
You're gonna draft it?
If you want me to draft it, yeah.
Please do.
Okay.
Or do you want to just mail it? Do we need to approve the draft, in other words, or is it simple enough and we can just send it?
Do you want us to,
Well, I mean,
Let's be
You wanna
consistent.
have to draft it?
Let's stay
We've been
consistent.
drafting.
Okay,
and the
draft
thing
it.
about the wording too, the strongly
Okay.
wording, it's.
Let's
kind
stay,
of-
yeah, I want it to be
We'll do
strong, so.
draft.
Don't do this again.
He's gonna do it again.
What's the
He did
term?
it twice,
Spanking.
he did it twice in 3 months, well, I mean, he's gonna do it again. But,
Should have a stamp with like your face on it.
Yeah, wait, I mean, it's already there, waiting a little longer isn't gonna.
Right.
I mean, listen, you know, I don't wanna grandstand on it or harp on it, but it's like, you know, I'm here spending my time putting work into this thing for what?
Over and over and over.
Over and over and over again. It's
But
just
they
me.
brought themselves back, right? Or
Yeah,
did we catch
yeah.
them?
No, they got caught.
Oh, they did
Yeah.
get caught.
That's why.
Good job, guys.
Okay,
Next.
thank you on that, so that is a
Go
good.
back there in about 6 months.
So we're gonna go to 15 Owl Hill, Karuba's property.
50, where are you now, 50,
Oh,
okay.
yeah, please. Then we're done.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
So-
well, was my point.
So on
Let's get that
15
thing
Owl
away from me.
Hill, Donna's got the list.
Okay.
They're going to do up a new plan, submit it to staff. We're mainly gonna make sure that all those numbers are there, and then we're going to try to look at it and make sure that it has some kind of,
Style.
what do I want to say?
Engineer, those two words don't go in the same
I have no
sentence.
idea.
Some type of
Naturalization or something.
It makes
layout
sense.
that makes sense.
Yeah,
Yes, thank you.
naturalization, that they're not all clumped together.
Try
and
not to
that they're
use a
spread
grid
out.
pattern.
Yeah.
No.
Basically,
Just
the
keep erasing
larger.
that.
I can see it, there'll all be lines.
The larger plants toward the rear.
No, if we see that picture again of like.
Triangles and
Okay,
squares.
so yeah, we'll probably do that, and then, can we also make sure there's we also make sure it's clearly indicated that of the, reiterate the maintenance plan that we, I know it's in the original plan, but can we make sure that that's noted in?
That the follow-up reporting be the standard 3-year unless the original approval says something different. Like if the original approval says 2 years. we
Yeah,
say
fine.
2 years.
Now, let me ask you, Scott, as part of this maintenance plan, year 2, half the plants die. What percentage is dead loss is acceptable?
Oh, there's a,
Is there a standard
yeah, there
answer
is
to
a
that?
standard. It's
20%,
75% of the planting has to be alive.
Does it have to be alive or thriving, or what's
Yeah,
the?
like we look, usually it's usually obvious.
Right.
Usually it's not like we're, saying, okay, what's the dimension is at 75%.
75% of the
It's
total
dead.
plants? 75% of the total plants, or 75% of each plant?
Of the,
Of the
each
total
plant.
planting. Oh, no, I thought it was
Like when CBS went and counted them out there, he counted every plant and.
Yeah, I mean,
He
he'll,
made sure that every,
yeah, usually.
Well, he
it's-
says he's digging these trees and these
Yeah.
plants and stuff from places like,
I mean, that's my only worry, is you put in a huge plant like, a huge tree like that, and they're a lot harder to keep alive
They
than
are.
if you're
They
putting
are.
in,
I have never been
putting in a
successful
little.
doing any
But
of
you
that.
know, irrigation system is key.
Yeah,
And I was telling planning and zoning that, to require these landscaping plans, really, you need to require irrigation. Because, like, if I'm remembering correctly, they put in some great plantings at, what's I'm having a great night here. The retail on Monroe Turnpike there, help me
CBS?
out, Goodwill.
Oh,
So they put in some great plantings at Goodwill, and because they didn't water them, they died. A lot of them died. And it's just a shame, they don't have that in their regulations yet, that they require people put in.
Right, can we just make sure that it's very clear in our approval on this Owl Hill property? That, I don't know if it probably has to be spelled out very clearly, because I know what's coming here. That, the maintenance plan would be here to, and, please note that the maintenance plan includes that if 75% of the plantings, or whatever that number is, do not survive, that we will require replanted.
God bless.
God bless you, God bless you.
Weren't they talking about selling the property?
He's not saying.
Is it not? Oh, okay.
Okay.
Well, you're gonna get the reports. You're gonna get the reports, and the reports are gonna tell you what.
I understand we're gonna get the reports, but I want it to be, I don't,
Now, do you need a motion for this?
Yes.
Okay,
well, he's
make
coming,
a-
this is where he's drafting the
Yeah,
letter,
you're
right?
gonna, you're gonna.
Oh, that's right.
No,
Yeah.
you're not gonna draft this one, he wants to dig them up and
Yeah,
get
okay.
it done.
Yeah, you asked that it be staff approval of the plan. They're
Yeah.
gonna submit a plan, the total number that they dictated. Donna's got the list, and you want the 3-year monitoring,
Just add a few plants in there.
3-year monitoring, and they have to be replaced if they die.
or,
You can just monitor and say, yep, it's dead.
well, it's in my note. I have the
Is that?
same note
Okay.
I put in everything.
Okay.
All right,
I
as
make
long
a
as it's clear.
motion To
And now we've
approve
started
with
calendars
conditions.
for follow-up
It's the
monitoring.
same note. It talks about
Did you get
the success rate. It also talks about.
Guys, come on. I know, we're all getting a little punchy. Let's get this
Okay.
through. Appreciate it. Okay, so are you gonna draft the letter, or are we making an approval right now?
No,
You're
he's gonna
making the
make
approval right now.
Okay, so I have a motion by Commissioner Stewart to approve with those conditions,
I'll second.
and a second by Commissioner Spence. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay? Any abstentions? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you.
All right, now we're on to the rest of the deliberation, I guess.
All right, so now we're on to the Sippin property that we just discussed.
Wait, do we need a motion?
Oh, this was
Oh,
just,
that's-
that was
this
just discussion,
informal,
right?
wasn't it?
You
This is
should,
just an
because
Let's do it.
you're approving,
Changes.
the original approval required that it come back before you for approval.
Okay, move to approve the,
Second.
the proposed changes in plants.
I have a motion to approve those proposed changes by Commissioner Spence,
Seconded.
second by Commissioner Ingress. All those in favor say aye.
Okay. So the plan the plan shows what they're proposing. The changes are the clepra, however you say it, in lieu of the inkberry, black spruce in lieu of white spruce, and the rest of the proposed plan is.
Yes.
Okay.
All those in favor say aye again, please.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstention? Carries unanimously. Thank you. Okay. So we will move on to agent activities report.
Okay, so, no agent approvals, no permitted uses as of right, and, no public works, stuff going on. Enforcement, I don't think
No.
we're making any, well, actually, we are, but, 17 Enterprise Drive is, we'll
July
get something
25th,
out there talking about July 25th. And that was it, right?
Mhm.
That was it.
I don't think there was anything else. All right, so that's that one. And where are we now?
Be administrative.
Administrative. So we've got 65 Scenic Hill Lane. Infanti is requesting an extension of time. Now, I asked Donna to look into the schedule for this and how many were previously requested.
Yes, that is correct. And you did actually grant an extension to him before. Now, this agent approval, this is when we were doing agent approvals to do remediations for a violation. So 65 Scenic was a violation. And you granted an extension effective through April 30th, 2018. The original approval, hold on here.
So it was only one extension they granted.
It was only one extension. I'm trying to get your letter, because that's the one, did I print it? I think I did. Okay. So the notice to proceed for the agent approval was given on, let's see, September 5th, 2017. And I don't think, let me just see if the commission work was supposed to be completed by November 27th, 2017. They came to you, asked for an extension, which you granted to April 30th of this year.
And now
So,
he's asking for an extension to.
right.
To move the shed, right?
To.
No, he's
the whole
asking
thing?
for a 60-day extension to June 30th in order to allow for conditions to approve. And that's it. It's just to move the shed. I think everything else is done. Due to the prolonged winter and very recent wet weather, I request an extension for 60 days in order to allow for conditions to improve to enable the shed, moving trailer, the ability to get in and out of the area in front of where the new shed pad is currently located without getting stuck or damaging equipment, the shed, because the conditions don't permit it.
Yeah, and I do remember this now, where he did talk to me and said that it, just the way it is right now, the truck would have.
It's too wet.
Right.
Well, the trees also need to be done, according to Denise's letter. She said the shed hasn't been moved, and I think the planting of the trees in this disturbed area is also not completed. So there is
Well, I think
two
he's gotta,
factors.
I think he's gotta move the shed and plant the
Right,
trees
but I
on
mean,
top
so
of
that
where the
there's
shed
two things
was.
that need to be done, it's not just the one.
Yeah.
So,
Are we okay timeline-wise? I mean, we're just
This is an
granting an
agent
extension.
approval, so it
Yeah.
doesn't have a limit. You can grant the extension.
Okay, I move that we provide a 60-day extension.
Okay.
It's a little bit, well, he's asked, yeah, okay,
yeah, he wants the
To
June
June
30.
30th.
which is approximately 60 days, so why don't we just, an extension
30th.
till June
June
30th?
30th.
June
That way there's
30th.
no,
Yep. Sounds
Okay.
good.
right, because
so
60
who
days
just
from now
made
is
a
exactly
motion?
June 30th.
Can I modify my motion?
Jim, motion to June 30th.
Wait a second.
And I'll second.
Okay,
Lois.
I have a motion by Commissioner Stewart, a second by Commissioner Spence. All those in favor?
Aye.
All right.
Any opposed? Any abstention? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you.
Close.
Are we gonna go over this later?
I think he's, I think he's
Yeah, you're
pulling,
right, 10:30.
Oh, that's what I thought.
pulling it up now. We still got minutes.
Just minutes, right?
Ooh, look at that. We had to print wetlands badges and give you guys uniforms.
Nice.
Make them sit in ducks.
Okay, you're all done with that now?
Yeah.
We're waiting on you.
My
Okay.
comments?
Next item is 4 Millow Drive. This is a
ignoring
new violation. This violation is, property owner has performed some grading and has pushed dirt to the edge of the wetlands surrounding the area of activity. I'm trying to remember how this came to us.
Says it was, a complaint was filed.
Oh, yeah, there it is, violation, complaint filed in the land use office, anonymous. So,
Eureka.
she went out there and saw that there's unapproved disturbance within the wetland area, placing of fill debris within the wetlands area, unapproved disturbance within the 100-foot upland review area, and placement of construction debris within a 100-foot review area.
Notice of violation.
So here's where we are. There, you'll see in the pictures, but they had a wall, a retaining wall. They knocked the retaining wall over, and to me, it looks like they're putting fill in there. She says it looks more like they're just kind of grading off after knocking the wall down. But this is the area here. The wetlands is the shaded area. The tree line in green, purple area, or whatever that is, pink, is the area of disturbance. There's a picture of it, so here's where the wall was before, this is before they did it. You can see the lawn area went out to here. And this is what it looks like now. The wall's gone, and it's just
Yes.
part of the wall that's all been pushed down in there.
Is that wetlands that they pushed it into, or is it still part of the upland review?
It's,
Pictures tell 1,000 words, you know, it's amazing.
it is into the wetlands, yes. There's
You should have stored blue that wall back.
this area right here is wetlands that they
Okay.
actually pushed it into. And so, again, here are the pictures, and you can see where the wall was in there, and it just sloughs off. So they took the wall out, and that was, I guess those blocks were the wall that you saw there.
See?
And the fill and stuff is just pushed into that area, so.
That's good.
How did we find out about these people?
Someone
Is
complained.
This was a anonymous complaint. I think it was a neighbor.
Probably, they probably heard the machinery and looked out the window and said, oh.
Or
my
drove
God.
by and saw.
Yeah, or drop, yeah, right on the
Saw
corner
this.
across hills.
What do you want with this?
Big one.
Notice a violation, in my opinion.
Yep, or at least show cause hearing, yeah.
Will do, okay.
Thank you. Okay, moving on to general discussion or other. We're just gonna take up the minutes of April 11th, 2018.
Move to approve as presented.
Move to approve as presented by Commissioner Spence. Do I hear a second?
I found one spelling error.
Okay.
First page.
First page.
Motion to approve minutes of March 28th by Commissioner Spence, seconded by
Oh,
Commissioner
your name.
Gingras. I don't have two S's in my name.
Duly noted, that will be taken out.
Grass.
Gingras.
That's
Yes, I
quite all
used to
right.
get that as a
You
kid
did
a
great
lot.
job.
Yeah.
Very
Can't
good.
imagine you never heard that one
Oh,
before.
Who was the second?
I didn't hear a second yet.
Awesome.
Second. Were you here last?
No.
Oh, you
can't
can't
second.
vote. I told you you can't vote
second
on these.
and or
Second.
Thank you.
Okay, so I have a motion by Commissioner Spence to approve the minutes as amended with that one change. A second by Commissioner Stewart. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? All those abstaining?
Okay, it's me.
Okay, so motion passes unanimously with
You just tested
Commissioner
something.
Mastroianni abstaining. Thank you.
Now, before Jim
see
goes
his
to
name
move
spelled.
to adjourn.
We're not done. We are not done.
Darn.
We are not done.
All right, next one, State Project 84-110. What this is there is they're calling it a bridge, but it's a box culvert, an old stone and concrete culvert under Route 34, just southeast of the boat launch area.
Okay.
Or right of the marina, excuse me. And what this is they're gonna go in and they're gonna replace the concrete top to the culvert, just the top, the span. And the actual walls, they're gonna repoint and save them, and then behind those walls, they're gonna excavate and they're gonna put in large area of concrete to kind of support them. So the actual vertical walls of the culvert are not being touched other than repointing.
They're brick or block?
They're
Or
stone masonry. And the wing walls leading in and out of the structure are not being changed. Just the span, the concrete span over the box.
Is it
They're gonna
crumbling?
Take that completely off and then put a new one on. They are going to because it's a state project, they're going to the State Inland Wetlands Division for an approval. And this is your notice saying that if you guys have any comments, to send them to them. I looked at it quickly and I'll be commenting.
Works for us.
Okay?
Works for
Thank
me.
you, Scott.
Good. Thank you.
Looking out for us.
And we got 261 Moose Hill Road.
261 Moose Hill Road. Yes, this is one that has, this is one that they're gonna be coming in with, construction for a house. But before they do that, they are proposing to do some testing. And I told them that they don't need to get an approval for that, that I would just go over it with the commission and get your input on it, if you're okay with that. But basically, this is the layout. It's a very large lot, as you can see, this whole lot.
Looks like it's mostly wetlands.
It's mostly wetlands, so there's a little, this is an old approved lot. Up in the front of the lot, the wetlands come all the way up into here. And here's the wetland line right there.
Wow.
There's a little area right here within the
You gotta be
building
kidding me.
for the
They're gonna
house.
squeeze the house?
And
Wow.
then across the whole frontage, there's another little area over here out of the wetlands where they're gonna put the septic system. So they're going to go in with
That's a long
equipment from
distance
Moose Hill
for a
Road,
septic
and they're gonna do
system.
their testing over here, you can see the test holes. And they're going to do a little bit of testing over here as well to see if they have a place where, I think it's more like in this area, where they can put a recharge system for the storm drainage. So they just kind of want your permission to go and do that testing, the typical septic testing.
Well,
and
they're not
stuff.
crossing wetlands, right? It's just a
They're not
number
gonna
review.
cross, at this point, they're going to just go in from Moose Hill on the two sides and do the testing.
Okay, sounds okay.
All right?
Sounds
Yep.
good.
Okay.
Okay, do you have anything from the Regulation Amendment Committee?
Yes, I've been working on this a little bit, and I wanted to, there's a couple things that, I mean, we haven't met yet as a committee, but there's a couple things that I unearthed in my research. One of the things is that most of the towns that I investigated about 15 towns in our area, and of the ones that I could find the regulations on, 90% of them have fees that are at least double for anybody that's bringing in a violation. It's not your standard fee like we do. We don't have anything that's double. One of the towns has 5 times. So if the fee was $200, it would be $1,000. And everything that they were applying for, having to do with that remediation, would be double, which is pretty substantial. And I think it's a good idea because it's finally some kind of, I don't want to say penalty because I just don't like that word, but it's,
Deterrence?
well, hopefully it would be a deterrent. Right now, there is no deterrent. There's no downside to doing something wrong and then coming to ask for forgiveness. It costs them the same as it would if they had done it up front. But if they don't get caught, they don't have to do anything.
Well, the downside is the threat that we can make them redo it.
We don't, though.
But if you
We
knew
haven't
that
yet.
it's gonna cost you a whole lot more if you do something after the fact,
I understand your reasoning, but we can't get our citations enforced.
we're gonna work on that too. But this is all part of the regulation review, and that is something that I wanted to bring up, and roll it around in your heads if you would, or look at some of the, I forgot to bring my paperwork tonight, as to the towns that I did investigate and what they are charging, as to, for extra fees. And some of them charge fees for, like, for instance, for work that's already been done. And they come back and they say, oops, sorry, we forgot, we didn't realize we needed it would cost them more
Treasurer's
to
gonna get
put this
very busy.
application. Was that?
The treasurer's gonna get very busy.
I don't think so.
Scott, can you
have
can
the
you
right
speak to the
statutory-
town's position of changing fee
Well,
structure?
I know that the town's position on enforcement is, they don't want it to be punitive. They don't want it to have a punitive feel to it. And I've been selling our enforcement program, and I clearly hear what Lois is saying, and I
Yeah,
understand.
Scott was not part of this. This was all my own.
No, no,
my own thought
I
process there.
definitely understand where where you come from. I think it's a good point you're raising. But I'll tell you that one of the things that I've been using to sell enforcement and to get the support for the enforcement is to say that, look, we've got a system that isn't punitive. It's not about taking people's money. It's about getting the wetlands protected. And that we've got this program and we bring people through the whole program, and yes, we charge fines, but if they do what they're supposed to do, they don't get a fine. And that's how I've been selling it to get more support from the town. I don't know. You've got a really good point, although I'm a little concerned because I want to keep what little support, I really shouldn't say what little support, I want to keep what support we have. I don't want people getting upset with
I understand.
with the process, So,
All right, well, let's consider it. It's something to definitely think about. I think we're gonna see probably more violation activity now that we have Denise on board and running.
Yeah, and I think all it's gonna take is a couple people to understand that there's gonna be a penalty involved for doing things without approval first. It will get around. It'll get around
You
quickly.
think so?
I
just so
do.
you know,
I don't think a lot of people do something in the wetlands thinking, I'm gonna try to get away with it. I think people just are
I do.
oblivious.
Some of the violations we've had, like the people that fill in town property, you can't tell me that isn't planned, And a lot of them are business owners. Whether it be intentional or not intentional to do it. If there's a little bit more of a deterrent, then they're more likely to talk to the office before they do it. So, that's.
Or it might
that
be
was
cheaper
my-
for them to just get rid of the material than to dump it.
Yeah.
well, I can tell you too that we have a new land use attorney. So I am in the process of speaking with him about getting the outstanding citations filed. We sent them off to the town attorney, and I think they just piled up, and I don't think any.
We have a new land use attorney, a new town attorney.
No.
A new, well, town attorney, but for land use issues.
That's
we-
separate
Different
from the
than
town attorney?
Yeah.
Yeah, we've hired a separate.
I had no idea.
Yeah, we've hired a separate land use attorney that handles the land use issues.
Is he experienced in land use?
Yeah, yeah. It's Vin Marino is his name. Vince Marino. I forget the firm. I should know that, but I'm sorry. At any rate, I'm gonna be discussing with him, trying to get some of these outstanding ones filed. Because, really, the discussion that's been happening is that even filing that on the legal filing of that doesn't necessarily mean the town's gonna actually get the money. What it does is it puts a lien on the property. And here's the thing about it, when the lien goes on the property, whoever buys that eventually acquires the property has to clear the lien. So in order to clear the lien, they have to come back to you to get it resolved.
And that
So-
happened quickly.
So that's the
Right,
argument.
which is the
I'm
intent,
using.
we're trying to
That
enforce
is
action.
the intent,
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah,
We're not-
without
We're not
taking-
intending to collect fees.
Right, without
Right.
taking people's money, of course, as well. And there are situations where that may be appropriate to pursue the actual fine.
Mhm.
The other thing that we're talking about is, there is a possibility, and you can communicate with your hearing officer, that there are some situations where people go through the citation and the enforcement violation process, and we have kind of some hardship as a result. We've got like a lot of time invested and other resources invested, and in some of those situations, you may want to collect a fine. I'm not saying collect the entire fine, but there may be some where you might want to be saying to these violators that, oh, in this situation,
Pay this amount of the fine, fix the
yeah,
problem.
and that will at least pay for some
The
of
work.
the
Understood.
work that gets done to resolve these things, because some of these things are going on for like years.
Well, that's what some of the people, when I was reading the regs, you know, it actually said some of that, you know, because it costs our staff extra time, because, and there's a lot of it back and
Yeah,
forth. I mean,
so in that respect,
We should see
I
some.
agree with what Lois is saying.
Well, and fees
so-
for legal filings and all that kind of stuff can be covered by that, right?
What, you mean by what we collect in fines?
Yeah,
I would imagine we can use it however,
we're paying the land use attorney, right?
right,
So that money should be coming from the fine, right?
well, I don't know, we've never collected one, so I don't know.
Well, that's what I mean, okay. All right,
So
But
we'll,
yeah.
we'll
It's good
definitely-
stuff.
But we're
All
still
right.
working on it,
Research on
I'm
that,
still,
yeah.
and I'm gonna get together with Jeff soon, hopefully, and whoever else wants to be on the committee, if anybody else wants to be on it, and we'll talk.
Okay,
And the same with public outreach, I'm still working on it.
all right. Is there anything else for the good of the order?
Jim, you're on.
Motion to adjourn.
A motion to adjourn by Commissioner Stewart. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner
These
Stewart.
guys didn't jump on
All
it.
those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstention?
I oppose.
Yeah, sure.
Motion carries unanimously, meeting is adjourned.